So, hello and welcome to another episode of With Enough Prep Time. I'm your host, the Nerd Man, and today I'm here with Paul HalogenHelix.
Halogen. Just split it. Halogen and
Halogen,
then helix. Like a halogen light, yeah, and a helix from like a double helix, yeah.
What the hell?
Halogen. Halogen and helix. Like a halogen light, yeah, and a helix from like a double helix, yeah. Halogen.
Wait a second.
Are you getting an echo? I'm getting an echo.
See? Fucking up already. Wait a second.
Are you getting an echo? I'm getting an echo.
I'm getting an echo. All right. So, it's fucking up already. Wait a second. All right. So,
I think it's on a loop audio.
All right, I'm gonna exit this and come back in. Sorry, just stay in
all
there.
Good. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna exit this and come back in. All right.
Guess we wait till he comes back in. I know what it's like to have audio issues then, man. It's I hate it. It is really annoying, especially when your mic just carks it all of a sudden. Hey, everyone. Thanks for popping by. Just give him a moment to come back in.
Hilarious. And I was on about fucking up the intro. Yeah, I had it on on Firefox. I didn't realize I had it on Firefox as well. Okay, yeah, so I'm here with HalogenHelix today. I'm actually like a really big fan of your debates. So I've been watching it for quite a long time, you and Swag and stuff like that. So yeah, like every time I'm kind of like frustrated and want to jump in because like somebody isn't making a point, an obvious point that I want to make, you usually make it. So it's good to have you on. But today we're going to be discussing something very, very important. The single biggest question threatening our democracy today. Is it Zack Snyder or the fans who are wrong about the DC characters? So it wasn't that great, I know, it's just a little joke. Yeah, I mean, first things first, I mean, what's your take, I guess, on Zack Snyder for people who haven't seen you on the channel yet? And also, please introduce yourself about your channel as well.
Oh, yeah. My channel is HalogenHelix. I chose a weird name. Yep. It's something to get past, I suppose. People tell me it's a weird name that I should change, but it's just too late in now. I am what I am. Yeah. So my channel, I just talk pop culture. Like I try to keep pop culture onto it. Like there is, I've done a few little drama things, but that's it. Like it's kind of dying for me as a thing. I do a live on a Friday for Australian Eastern Time. I do a pop culture show podcast that usually goes from like 1 to maybe 3 or 4 hours, depending on what topics there are. And I usually have a co-host from New Zealand on. And and sometimes, usually we'll get Mike from Road Comics in there, and for the comic stuff, because he's gracious enough to stay up in the US time to help me out. But we just talk pop culture. That's it. I do gaming streams as well every now and again, and that's pretty much my channel.
Cool.
You wanted to know about Zack Snyder as a director, or do you want to ask me another question now instead?
Oh, I was going to say, how far behind are you from the US? Because you're always streaming with the US guys.
Yeah, I try to. Well, if I'm going to catch them in the evenings, I have to stream I have to like sort of get on with them in the afternoons, early afternoon to late afternoon. Depends on what happens. One time, because I was on there, I made MSK like stream for almost 8 hours. So it was well into my evening, and he was like almost morning for the Americans. So it was pretty funny. But yeah, it's that, or I have to go like this sort of time. So I think the East Coast is awake around 9 p.m. my time. So if I want to catch the East Coast, if I want to catch like LA or something, then it's sort of more 1 a.m. ish that I sort of have to sort of
11, 10. It's like 10 hours or something, or
it's like 10 hours, and then 10 hours like behind on the clock, but I'm 1 day in the future for America.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much like date wise. Yeah,
it's
so
Monday.
Like living. Yeah, it's Monday for me now, and it's Sunday for them. Yeah, because it ticked over to Monday just 30 minutes ago. So yeah,
I'm here in the Czech Republic anyway. But on to the discussion, the big debate, or because we have some differences in our views on Snyder. But I wanted you to just introduce your take on Zack Snyder and the characters, the way he's portrayed the characters.
So just in the DC thing, or what my take is of Zack Snyder overall?
Well, you can, however you want to do it. But just the intro.
Yeah, well, take on Zack Snyder, I think he's a good director. I bought I bought 300. I have a lot of Snyder fans don't like this movie, but I like it. Sucker Punch. I have that. I bring it up all the time as a little thing. I saw the combo for it, so I bought both of them together as a double feature. But yeah, I like Watchmen, even though he sort of changed the ending a bit from the comics. I didn't mind the change of the ending.
I think it made more sense.
Yeah, well, it made more sense to sort of what you would call normies, like people that aren't really in depth into like the Watchmen sort of fandom. It makes a lot more sense to someone who's just a general viewer to understand, rather than going this hardcore weird alien thing. So I get his creative vision sometimes. I think he's a good director overall, and he's not a bad storyteller for when the movie is right for him. And I think that's where we get into issues with the DC, is I don't think the setting up the DCEU was the right play for Snyder. I think Warner Brothers could have used him a lot more in maybe even in Justice League, or if they wanted to do an Elseworlds Dark Knight Returns comic, like 2-movie or 3-movie trilogy or something on the Dark Knight Returns. Probably a 2-movie would be working, just like the animated version of it. But yeah, I feel like he kind of, in my view, he kind of tried to copy Nolan. Like he tried to do a Nolan style of universe, and in that he made decisions about certain characters like Superman, and it was sort of like Man of Steel was kind of like somewhat creatively different. And so I can get this is my view. Like if I just give an overview of what it is, and we can get into questions after that. So for the trilogy, right? I like Man of Steel. Like I really do. I have problems with Kent. Some of the things he says in that movie, I don't agree with. I don't like how Kent died in that movie. Like there's a thing behind Kent dying of the heart attack was to show Clark that there's some stuff that he can't control. And that's an integral part of his background, his story. And it's just like Spider-Man with with his uncle. Great power comes great responsibility, and he lets that robber go that kills his uncle later. So that's my sort of, there's core structures to characters.
The actual heart attack is essential, or do you think just the idea behind the heart attack is essential?
I feel like the idea behind is essential, and I think I've heard how people justify sort of don't save me, son sort of deal with that tornado thing, but it's sort of, I don't know, the plot sort of was written around that, where I think it could have been way better written. right? That's sort of my issue with that. And I don't like how he said maybe you should have let those kids die. Basically, I was like, yeah, no, Kent would never say this. Like, this is not.
Can I ask you just a question? Just to interrupt.
Yeah.
I remember watching the epic trailer of Man of Steel when it first came out.
Oh yeah, man!
Trailer was astounding, and I always remember watching that trailer, and then it would get to that section when it's all epic, and it's like the big speeches and all of that, and then it would get to that maybe part, and I'd go, huh? And then I'd get back into the epicness and forget about the maybe part. But I was always thinking, even from watching that trailer, like, oh, he must mean something else. It must be, it can't be that. But then you watch the film and it was exactly that. And I was just like, there was no development from there. But anyway, go on. Sorry.
But I mean, we're getting into nitty gritty of what I think. But overall, I enjoy Man of Steel. And so when the Snyder Cut was released, or coming up to the Snyder Cut release, I watched Man of Steel. Then I watched BVS, the Ultimate Cut, which I do agree is better than the theatrical version because it explains the wheelchair bomb and other things, right? I don't like BVS. I think that movie is a mess. I don't think it's well written. I feel like that has to do partly. I don't think Terrio is completely honest when he did that article and said, it's the studio's fault. I wanted my name off this movie. I feel like it's 2 and 2. I feel like the producers and Warner Brothers sort of were like, we can't just have Batman and Superman fight. We need a big bad at the end for them to team up against, and then we can bring Wonder Woman in. And so then Terrio wrote Doomsday into the movie. That's what I believe happened. We don't have any official thing. That's conjecture, obviously, but I just think it's 2-2. You're the writer. You have to take responsibility. And that movie was a complete mess. And some of miscasting as well. Jesse Eisenberg was a bad casting choice for Lex Luthor. His take on Lex Luthor was not it just didn't make sense. There's so much stuff that has to go right in his plan. Like just the writing's a mess, really. And then I watched the Justice League. So that BVS left a bad taste in my mouth. I wasn't one of these people online going, the Snyder verse is crap. I don't want this crap. Like, I wasn't one of those hardcore people either, like doing that sort of stuff. And I only just started my YouTube channel in November last year, and it was to do with gaming first, not really pop culture stuff. I started my podcast earlier this year, talking about this stuff, but I never really made a big deal out of that. I just have certain nitpicks when it comes to the Snyderverse, if you want to call it that. So I watched the Snyder Cut going in with an open mind, and overall, it's a better movie than what we saw, clearly, right? Because it's a complete vision. It makes sense. It's a 4-hour movie, though. So there are parts of it, I would say the first 30 minutes of it are a bit boring. It does drag. And this is where a good director, right? And I'm saying Snyder's a bad director by default when I say this, but a good director, even though he wanted to put everything in his movie, all the scenes he shot, he could have cut a lot of that stuff down still. And made it tighter. And I feel like if it was tighter, it would be a great movie. And by the way, I gave on my channel, I gave Justice League the Snyder Cut a B as a movie, because I did enjoy it. I liked the Flash. It was more sort of expanded out.
I would have given it probably an A, but I would understand. It's like a teacher who sees the potential in something, right?
Yes.
You see he's got a great imagination, but he's not spelling correctly, and he's not, so you give him an A because you think, other than that, the actual idea is good. Maybe some of the execution needs working on. But I can understand a B. A B is very solid.
Yeah, well, it's like a B as a movie for me because it was well directed, and I've started to look at movies in not just the way I sort of grade stuff is I look at the movie of what it's trying to do. So if it's a superhero movie, it goes in a slot. If it's like an action movie, it goes in this slot. If it's like a martial arts movie, it goes in this slot. And then I look at the corners it's trying to hit, and if it successfully hits those corners. So the reason I gave it a B was there are parts of it that I can recognize. So as a comic fan, I could see that Snyder was drawing from 2 sources, The Dark Knight Returns, 1 and 2, and he was drawing from the New 52, which no one likes, universally, and that's why they did the Rebirth in DC Comics to go away from New 52. And so knowing that, that's where the issues come into it, where where like we have
people
we can recognize certain things coming from that. And so Cyborg is in the New 52 Justice League, and to me the biggest issue with the Justice League Snyder Cut movie is that for 98% of that movie Superman's not in it, and we're missing one of the trio, right? And we make that movie like about Cyborg, who's not in the original Justice League. Like the story features around him, and he gets the most character growth out of everyone in that movie. And that, to me, when you're doing the Justice League, we want to see that trio, right? That's what we want to see. So that was my big issue with the Justice League Snyder Cut. Like overall, there are minor issues. Like, or should say, the next major issue was the music for me. I hated it. I thought it was terrible. Like, but that was like a minor gripe for me. The main issue for me was like, because like at the end, man, Superman comes in and then axe comes down. And he's just like unimpressed and ice breaths it and smashes it and just wails on, Steppenwolf. And I was just like, yes, this is the Superman I want to see. Like, let's see this. Because it was like Man of Steel Superman again, right? And he's full of hope and like, that whole truth, justice, the American way sort of deal. Like, and he's just wailing on him. Like, I was like, this is the Superman. If we had him for like 90% of the movie, it would be over like that, you see? So there's like that power issue that Snyder was struggling with.
I did miss the Whedon truth and justice line actually from that, rather than not impressed. But anyway, I want to narrow this.
Let's narrow it down. Yeah.
But really great intro. It's your kind of total journey through like the DCEU with Zack Snyder. But the reason I kind of brought you on to speak on this subject is, when it comes to Zack Snyder, one of the common complaints by some fans is that the interpretations he has of these characters are not valid interpretations. And then there are others who passionately defend him. Now, I was in the corner of when I watched Man of Steel, and I saw Superman, and Pa Kent, I was completely on people's side. But then they started saying similar things about his version of the Flash, or the version of Flash in the DCEU, or the version of Lex Luthor in the DCEU, which we're probably going to disagree on a little bit. And then I was like, I'm not sure I understand what people are talking about anymore, because I can see that Superman and Pa Kent, for me, like from Man of Steel and specifically from BVS, are invalid interpretations. But the interpretation of Superman in Zack Snyder's Justice League is a valid interpretation. The interpretation of Flash, for me, is a valid interpretation. And what I mean by that is that it falls within the lines of what the character stands for, what the character kind of means in the comics. So that's kind of like where I was coming from. I know. Tell me if I'm being a bit too abstract. Or
No. I get what you're saying. Like, I think going back to what you said, like, is it valid? Right. Well, Zack Snyder's like any director or writer, right? Like Chris Terrio, and Jeff Johns. They're creating art. So in the end, it's like they're creating what they want in it, and then it's up to the audience whether they accept that piece of art or not, right? Like a piece of media or whatever it is. So whether I don't like when you say is it a valid interpretation? Well, it's their interpretation, so it's valid from that perspective. It's just whether or not people are going to accept that interpretation of their characters that they're putting on screen.
That is kind of true, but we've heard, and nothing against this person. I know you have some issues with this person, but I'm just going to use him as an example, totally neutral here. I don't have a problem with him, I'll leave it at that. But say, for instance, somebody like follows Poindexter's Lounge or other kind of people on YouTube like that, they would say something along the lines of, when it comes to like Man of Steel or or BVS, something similar to what you were saying, really, that it is the person's interpretation, right, I don't think they add on the very important caveat that you mentioned, or qualification, which is people have to accept it. But it seems to me what they're saying is something along the lines of Superman is, sorry, let me use Superman as an example, but Superman is kind of, if he comes from Krypton, Krypton explodes, he has Park Kent, he has Mark Kent, you know, he lands on Earth in the farm, that's Superman. Doesn't matter what in between that, as long as that is the case.
Yeah, no, that's not the case. No, that's not what makes Superman Superman.
Well, that's where I have a problem because, okay, let's even pretend that Henry Cavill Superman does kind of represent Superman in a way, right? By their argument, let's say Superman comes down, all of the stories the same, but he's a Nazi, right?
Well, they did that in Red Son. Like they do that in Red Son. He lands in Russia instead.
As an Elseworld, fine, but I'm just saying they're trying to do it as a mainstream interpretation of Superman. Now, I'm giving an extreme example.
And that's the issue with like Zack Snyder, him saying it is an Elseworld story. Again, they're trying to launch, so they've had to make it an Elseworld story because people hate it, like generally don't like it that much, right? BVS should have made over $1 billion. It really should have. It was Batman and Superman on screen for the first time ever in the same movie fighting each other. It should have made $1 billion. It didn't. It dropped 75% in its second week, which means that the common audience, right? Yeah, the 4 quadrants
in its open weekend.
And then it was like, you're right. And so that means that word of mouth was not good for this film. General audiences didn't like this film. Doesn't matter what Zack Snyder lovers liked about this film, it's clear that the general audience, it didn't hit, right? And in a world where we're saturated by comic book films now, you have to hit that out of the park. You have to like they had the Trinity on screen for the first time, like in years, in a legitimate movie, Wonder Woman there at the end as well, and that couldn't crack $1 billion. So there's issues, right?
What, and it's Wonder Woman, the solo movie, or
on BVS. I'm talking about BVS, right? I'm saying like her turning up at the end as well, which by the way was a pretty cool part of the movie. That music, amazing. The Hans Zimmer score for her. She was like the fire of that movie, basically at the end of that movie.
BVS. I thought she was so cool, and I thought she was a downgrade actually in Zack Snyder's Justice League from BVS. I mean, she was heading up with Doomsday. She was chopping off the Doomsday's arm.
So that's an issue in Justice League, is they do decrease her power in that movie. She kills Ares in her own movie.
Yeah, exactly. Don't let me go on a rant on Wonder Woman because.
But we'll get off on the thing. But when we're talking about characters, so what you're saying is correct. Superman is not made up by a boy that's like launched off a dying planet that explodes and then hits the Earth, and that's the end of it. That's not what makes Superman Superman. It's a twofold thing with Superman. The first thing is he grows up with his Earth parents. Kent, his father, and by the way, the best version I've seen of Kent, I've got to be honest, is Smallville's Kent, right?
Yeah, he was great.
And this is a guy who teaches his son, who knows that the government would experiment on him if they could, right? So he has to hide his powers away, but he teaches him the love of humanity. He teaches him how to be a good man. That's what Kent teaches him, right? He teaches his son how to be a good man. That's necessary for Superman. The next step is that he goes to the Fortress of Solitude, but we see in A Man of Steel, he goes to the ship, right? In the ice. And that's where Jor-El, his actual father, or like the shadow of his father, right, teaches him how to use his powers to and what he's there for. It teaches him his purpose. So Kent teaches him his love for humanity, and Jor-El teaches him his purpose of being there. Together, when he came out of that ship as Man of Steel, and we hear that, like I think I talked about this when I was on MSK with you, when he comes out of that ship, and he's like, they'll stump, that whole speech from Jor-El, which gives me goosebumps every time I watch it, right? Before he has his first flight. And he's like, they'll stumble and fall, but eventually they'll join you in the sun, right? Great. And he learns how to fly. That speech is amazing, right? But at that point, he is Superman. He is fully formed as a character. That is who he is. He is Superman.
Yeah, you're right. Like, sorry, that was a Grant Morrison speech because everyone's always giving Zack Snyder that, but actually from Grant Morrison. But yeah,
no.
See, this is where I would disagree with you on that slightly. I think Jor-El, right? It is good to have Jor-El as a good influence and and teaching Superman the way, but I don't think that's necessary. And I don't think it's necessary even that he comes out of that shit fully formed as Superman, right? What I do agree with you on, and what I think absolutely has to be the case, especially when you're reintroducing Superman to the world, is he does have to have the Kents be the greatest Americana family, teaching the greatest values humanity has to offer, right? Where it goes from there, I think you can be a little bit, creative with, right?
Well, you can build on his character. Don't get me wrong; like, he can learn new things. What I'm saying is the essence of what makes Superman what he is happens once Jor-El teaches him what his purpose is on the planet. So that's what happens in that scene. He teaches him the history of Krypton and Kryptonians. And then he says, like, you're here, like, to be like the shining light for humans. Like, you're here to show them what they can become, like what is eventually what they can become, right? That's like his whole thing. Now he can learn stuff from there. Like, he's learned new powers in the comics, etc., etc. My issue with it is that we get into BVS and he's deconstructed. He's like, oh, maybe the world doesn't need Superman. He's unsure of himself. All these things that are written into him in BVS. After speaking to Jor-El, being raised by Kent or the Kents, and then suddenly he's like, I don't know if I can be Superman anymore, or the world doesn't need Superman, or I'm going to sit there and look sad while a building explodes around me. Like, this is a fundamental issue with the character of Superman in BVS. Like, and this is what a lot of people have an issue with.
Let me ask you one question. Do you think, I know for a fact that Zack Snyder was trying to deconstruct Superman in BVS, in Batman v Superman. But here's what I think about Man of Steel. I don't think he was trying to deconstruct Superman in Man of Steel. I think he saw that as a movie that was hopeful, and that by the end of the movie, that was really Superman. I don't buy for a second that the fans started going, saying that, it was Superman's first day, and then he started adopting that excuse afterwards. I don't believe for a second that he didn't feel that he was fully formed Superman when he came out of, obviously he's inexperienced, but I mean, in terms of the values, that is how Zack Snyder saw Superman. Pa Kent, what he was saying, he saw that as being a good father. That's what Zack Snyder interprets as being like having the best values, being a good father. And so I don't believe that I think he came up with the deconstruction as an excuse afterwards. But I think so it brings me to my fundamental point about Zack Snyder and his problem with Superman is I don't think he understands what the word hope means. I really don't.
Yeah, I think his wife's admitted as much. His wife admitted that they misstepped with BVS. I don't know how far that goes, but yeah, they that the writing was not on point for that movie. Obviously, clearly because it didn't do well, so they didn't hit the audiences they needed to. They hit the Snyder audience and the people that love Snyder, right? Or whatever they were back then. But the general audiences and some other DC fans did not like that movie in general overall. So there's that thing, and a lot of people compare it to. He's kind of in Watchmen. He's like Dr. Manhattan, right? Because there's that scene where he's on Mars. And he's got that big time glass machine or whatever, and he's talking. He's like, "Oh, humanity may not need saving." He's unsure of what is good in humanity, all this stuff, right? And it's parallel to Superman and BVS.
I think he's still thinking about Watchmen because he just directed Watchmen. So when he was approaching,
and it's they're very different characters. Watchmen is all flawed humans doing things, right? They're all flawed in their own ways, and they all have like they're downwards. Like Superman is a Boy Scout. He's called a Boy Scout for a reason. Big Blue Boy Scout. It's because he's pure good. If we're going to go like D&D terms or whatever, he's pure good. Like there's no bad in Superman, right?
Yeah.
Especially when he first starts out. Like he is pure good. And so like what you said, the whole thing about hope, like that's the fundamental issue, is that he didn't show hope in his character didn't go forwards in BVS, it went backwards. It was deconstructed from what it was at the end of Man of Steel. And now we talk about that next snap. We can talk about that next snap, right? Which I think was actually the way that was written was the point of that was that Superman or Clark was picking humanity once again over his own people. And that was the last of his kind that he knew of. Obviously, Supergirl exists in this universe. She's been cast for Flash. But, like, that was the last of his kind as far as he knew. He just blew up the ship with all the, little embryos and stuff in it, right? And then he's just...
Superman, wasn't it? Like, giving a
Krypton had its chance. Yeah, like, Krypton had its chance. Like, yeah.
Like,
yeah. Right. And so the end when he's like, don't do this, please don't do this. And like, there's that family there, right? The point of that scene, and like, it could have been better written. Obviously the family could have ducked out of the way anytime they wanted to. There's a lot of excuses given, right? But the point of that scene was to show him picking humanity. That was his last act in that battle, picking humanity once again over his own people. And that was the point of that next step. And I like that. I like that writing at that part. And a lot of people don't like that about Superman, that he killed somebody, right? But I actually like that ending because it showed like a part of him. He was like choosing like his love, like what Kent had taught him, the love for humanity, and like what Jor-El had taught him to save humanity.
That's the problem. Kent hadn't taught him that. That's the problem.
We didn't see that. Yes, the writers assumed that normies knew Kent's like, yeah. But there are parts like rewatching that. There are parts when Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Just to pick up on one thing, because you're saying about the killing of General Zod. Now, first of all, guys, I will get to your comments a little bit later, but we're obviously kind of back and forth in this discussion at the moment. So don't worry, I will get to your comments. So in terms of the killing of Zod, I don't necessarily mind that. I think that could have been saved for a sequel, like, build up that, build up this sense that, hey, he doesn't kill. And he meets someone like, dude, I have to kill this person. I can't Superman my way out of this. This is just like, it's got to be done. And then deal with the consequences of that in a third movie. I think that would have been a better setup. But having said that, the killing at the end wasn't the problem. And we touched on one thing that made it problematic to me, which was, first of all, that it wasn't, set up by the Kents or anything that he didn't, he was against killing. So what happened is at the end of the movie, when he kills the guy, it just feels emotionless and flat to me. It doesn't, he kneels down and he screams, and yeah, you can interpret that as he's really broken up about that. But the next scene, he's smiling and, going into the Daily Planet. And it seems like Metropolis has been rebuilt magically as well, because I think they're in the Daily Planet office, which I was sure had, crumpled to the ground. So all of that was kind of like really odd for me in terms of, this choice of killing. And lastly, before I let you respond, that I think when you listen to how Zack Snyder came up with this story, it seems like the plan wasn't for Zod to be killed at the end. And then he decided he needed a new ending, right? Like, apparently Nolan was arguing back and forth with him about whether they should kill Zod or not. Nolan said no. He was saying, yeah, probably. And so if that killing was something that was written after because he was unsatisfied with how it ended, then he needed to go back into the script and lay the foundation for that death. right? But he didn't. He just tacked it on at the end. And that's what it seems like to me. It's almost like we can't think of a logical way to get rid of Zod because he's too fucking powerful. You can't put him in jail. So what do we do with him, right? And therefore they were just like, all right, we'll kill him. And that's what I think is lazy about it. So what do you say to that?
No, I totally agree with you, and I think it follows on into BVS as well. Like they don't know how to handle Superman in general. I think that's the biggest issue with Snyder is that he doesn't know how to handle Superman because they kill him in BVS. They do the death of Superman in the second movie that Superman's in the DCEU. Like this is a big issue, particularly because the death of Superman is a massive arc in the DC comics, and when you saw Doomsday in the trailer, people were like, oh, they're going to do the death of Superman now. Like DC fans knew they were going to do the death of Superman. He dies in it. And it's like, and then we see like the full creative vision, right? That the death of Superman was to mark like the mother box as being awoken or like signaling to Steppenwolf that it was time or something. And it was like,
it was weird.
Yeah, it was dumb because like, what happened if he screamed like just randomly in like when he was in the atmosphere or it just was like a lot of plot. It was a lot of like easy plot stuff. Like, and I agree with you. Like,
why didn't they attack Earth before Superman arrived?
That's the question. Yeah, there's a lot of like if we can deep dive into Justice League, like there's a lot of issues with that movie. Even though I gave it a B, there is a lot of plot issues with that movie, and
but there's a lot of plot issues. Many comic book movies too.
That's what I said. Like I call it
the defense of Zack Snyder in a minute.
I call it comic book bullshit. That's what I call it. Like if it's like it's something that you can easily ignore, and it's like comic book sort of, it's like superheroes do superhero things. You can sort of ignore it and play it off because it's not dealing with real world sort of physics because it's Superman or some character, right? So you can do some of the stuff like that, ignore that stuff. But then there are issues like, why did Darkseid forget where the antimatter equation was? Like how did he forget where Earth was? Why did he sit in a boom? Why did he sit and look on from a boom tube the whole time? Like, and then go, we'll close the boom tube, and I'm going to fly in a ship without, hundreds of thousand kilometers instead. Like, you'd have just boom tube through and started fighting Superman. Like, all these questions, we can ask these things, right, and conjecture over them.
At the end, I thought that it was blocked somehow. Like he
he controls the boom tubes, man. He's like, this is the problem. Is like he pumped Darkseid up as this big villain, and Darkseid did nothing the entire movie. Nothing.
But I thought he wanted to come with the Armada to take over Earth. I don't really
because people make these excuses that it's going to be Justice League 2, 3, that he's going to do this. Dude, he can come through a boom tube easily. Like and he's fought Superman on Earth before coming through a boom tube. Doesn't need the Armada. He would have absolutely smashed the rest of the Justice League instantly.
Yeah,
like he could have smashed them instantly, and it'd be just him and Superman fighting each other. Like it would have been an epic finale to the movie.
That's the problem, though, with weakening people like Aquaman, Flash, and Wonder Woman the way they
Aquaman didn't do anything in this movie. Aquaman doesn't have to be there.
He doesn't. I liked his energy in the movie. Actually,
I like his energy, but literally, he doesnn't do anything to help. Like he doesn't do anything.
He was like the Tyrese of the movie. He's like, you guys are crazy. What are you doing? I like his energy.
His energy's good, and Jason Momoa is a great actor. But yeah, he had nothing to do in this movie. Like,
he's a great.
He's good. He's better in Aquaman the movie. I'll give him that. Like, he's better in that. And unfortunately, that's the problem with like Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's like a backwards thing for his characters. Everyone's seen Aquaman, the first movie to make $1 billion for DC, right? In this DCEU sort of franchise. And now we watch a movie where it's actually backwards. He's not the king anymore. He doesn't have the suit. He doesn't have the king's trident. We're going backwards. And we play that crappy folk song over his like intro in the movie, and then we have a woman sniff his jumper and sing a Viking chant.
Okay, and this is actually going into our question because I actually like the Atlantis in Zack Snyder's Justice League. I liked the Atlantis in. I think that was the best part.
Well, we didn't really see Atlantis in the. We saw where they kept the cube.
No, I know. I'll get in. I'll explain why. I'll just give me a second. But like I like the Aquaman in the Atlantis in James Wan's Aquaman. It was actually pretty fun, really beautiful, and I thought that was the best part of the movie. But having said that, looking at how Zack Snyder was representing Atlantis was kind of cool as well. It was like a different take on Atlantis, and it kind of reminded me of the comics where you have different, comic writers doing different visions of, how things work. So, they were speaking in echolocation in Zack Snyder's movie, which kind of like, that kind of made...
When I do Aquaman's speech, like underwater. Yeah, and so...
In Aquaman.
Yeah. But so like, no, that's another thing that was like from the old DC. I think Nolan was going for fear. I think the stream has gone down.
Has it?
Yeah. It still says it's live at the top, but people are getting playback errors, and I just tested, and yeah, it doesn't look like it's live anymore.
Really? Might have to. It doesn't say else. I'm just going to check if it. Like leaving. Have to start a new one, right? Yeah, it was, but it.
Yeah.
Maybe I should start it again.
Yeah, people are asking if your internet or network is fine.
Seems fine.
Oh, here we go. I think it's back. The buffering's going now. We're good.
So you're watching it, and it's we're all. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm watching it. It's buffering now. It's back. Yep.
Okay, cool, man. So as I was saying, I'll tell you why.
You think it's about fear? That's right. You said it's about fear, and I said it's about realism. Yeah, the Nolan trilogy.
I'll tell you why I asked.
Oh no, sorry, Batman Begins, not the Nolan trilogy. Batman Begins. Yeah.
It might make it easier if I tell you why I'm asking about this, because I think it's kind of like a fundamental of why Zack Snyder's storytelling is not as good as some other writers, because you were talking about overstuffing things with ideas, right?
Yes.
And when you narrow down what Batman Begins is about, it's about fear. Now, if I asked you what Shazam was about, what's the theme of Shazam, what would you say? In one word.
That's a hard one, actually, for me, because I'm thinking of a lot of things. When I think of Shazam, I think of a lot of different words. But I would say, heroism would probably be the top one that comes into my mind. So what it means to be a hero, basically.
Yeah. If I said family.
Yeah, family's a good one. Yeah, that's true. Definitely. I think family is like probably a through theme throughout it, because he's searching for his mum, and he finds a new family, and they end up becoming the Council of Wizards with him. So yeah, I would say family is a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Wonder Woman, I would say, just to so we don't play, I would say it's whether humanity is worth saving, something like that. It's like
Wonder Woman is Wonder Woman's very different, but I would say probably
nature of good.
Yeah, what evil. It is. What is human? Like, what is it to be human? Or is humanity worth it? Because she kind of makes a decision on that in that trench scene, like, and then we have that big heroic moment where she goes over into no man's land, and that's when she decides no man, no woman, like all this stuff, like, because he's like, it's, you know, no man's land. Chris is just like, it's no man's land, you can't go out there, and she's like, that's me, man. Yeah, hey man, thanks for coming in, Geeks and I tweeted it out for you, man, so that you can
so the reason I'm asking this, right, is basically, if you look at all the villains, like, say, I know you're a big fan of Batman Begins. I also think it's the best Batman movie actually ever. But it's specifically,
we're on the same page. Yes.
Movie. And I think if you look at that, you can see that the actual villains reflect the theme of the hero's journey and the theme of the story. So it's Scarecrow, he's one element of fear. It's Ra's al Ghul, who is using fear to destroy Gotham, right? The same with Shazam. You know, you've got its family. So the main villain or antagonist is somebody who has a broken family. It's kind of like the opposite of, then you go to Wonder Woman, it's like Ares and Dr. Poison. It's all about like these different shades of humanity and whether they're good or evil, or it's some kind of nurture in between, something like that. And then you have Ares. I think Wonder Woman does it the weakest out of those three, but it still holds consistent with a kind of singular theme, right?
Yeah.
Zack Snyder, when you go to something like Man of Steel, and this is where it really fails, you can't see that through line. I think it's hope that he's trying to make the theme of Man of Steel, but the villain doesn't really reflect that. How is Zod anti-hope? How is he antithesis of Superman and what he's going for? And I think and then you're like, okay, so if it isn't hope, is it about predeterminism or something like that? Are you predetermined by birth or freedom or free will? And each one you go along the lines of, you're like, there's just so many ideas. It's kind of like you're confused as to the singular purpose of what the villain is actually, or what the relationship between hero and villain is and what that hero's journey is there for. And I think it gets even worse in Batman v Superman. So that's why, sorry, I was a roundabout.
No, I get what you're saying, like the singular themes for sure, yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's a basic problem with Zack Snyder's storytelling. Because even Zack Snyder's Justice League, which I don't agree necessarily with you. I actually think it's a near masterpiece. But does it have a theme, that a singular engine driving the story, or is it just like Zack Snyder trying to put as much as possible in there, like stuffing it? Is it that the Justice League are gods, and that's why you have those singing ladies singing to Aquaman? Or is it, there's just so many different things going. Is it about not being alone, not being broken or alone? Or is it like the Flash's thing of, there's so many different things stuffed into there. And I think that's what really muddles people and makes people think that his storylines and his way of doing these characters is really, really overly complicated and overly stuffed.
Yeah, I would agree with you completely with that. I think Man of Steel does it the best because, let's be honest, Nolan was involved in that, and I'm self-admitted a Nolan fanboy, but yeah, I feel like that's what held a lot of that writing back, from going that place, of complications. I think it does it best for the hope theme. But yeah, you're right. Zod doesn't really have an anti-hope theme. It's more he's just a villain that's trying to change the world, and Superman's necessary to stop him, sort of deal. But BBS, there's issues there, and Justice League definitely has its issues because these characters aren't established in any other movie. So we are meeting them like Zack Snyder's version of these characters for the first time in Justice League. So they don't have any established lore. They don't have any, like to normies, they don't have any established lore. They don't have any established character traits. We just get what that's in Justice League. So that's a problem, because then you can't go for a theme, because we're trying to balance all these characters and the themes that are around them. So
it clearly would have been a far superior movie if you had a Flash origin movie before, if you had maybe the Aquaman movie had have come before. I think you don't need a Cyborg movie, to be honest. As much as I actually really liked Ray Fisher in both versions of the movie, but specifically after watching Zack Snyder's Justice League, I was like, I would really love to see a film with him if he wasn't such a fucking asshole. But he's kind of ruined that for himself. But in a way, but I wanted to get back to this question, because let's go back to just this thing about why does Zack Snyder get this criticism over everyone? Because I think something like nobody liked Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man 2, right? I don't know if you're the outlier in that.
No,
right?
No.
But no one says that isn't Spider-Man. Do you know what I mean? No, people like Superman Returns. I think Superman Returns, is that right? Like the
Superman Returns is like basically in the Christopher Reeves universe, basically. Yeah.
But no one gives the criticism that isn't Superman, right? So there's been bad films with superheroes, films that people even like, Ghost Rider or something like that, right? There have been bad films with these guys, but no one's like, yeah, but he's misunderstood the character. They're just like, it's a bad film. So what is it about Zack Snyder specifically that inspires this? I mean, we've gone over Superman. Let's talk about somebody else who's a little bit controversial, who I like, but you dislike, which is Lex Luthor. So let's talk about that. What do you think that the same criticism applies that we've been talking about Superman to a character like Lex Luthor? And why?
Completely. Yes, because he's like the arch nemesis of Superman, right? So the issue with this Lex Luthor and BVS particularly is that he's not imposing. He doesn't seem intelligent. He doesn't do things behind the scenes enough. He's too forefront with it. Like when he gets Clark to meet Bruce, and then he's like basically giving away he knows who they are. He's like, oh, that guy's got a strong handshake. I would not like to get in a fight with that man. Like, and then he's like referring to, Bruce as like, some dark figure or whatever it is that he says. He like literally says, I know who you are, right? To the audience and to them.
I can't remember.
He says something to Bruce, but he does highlight who Clark is immediately, right? And it's like, this is not Lex. Lex would never do this. Like he would manipulate behind the scenes, and his plan would be like not convoluted like it is. Like there's like something like, I think they listed it out in the Honest trailer for it, one of their last good ones. And like that's because Andy was still at the helm. But there's a part where they list the plot lines of Lex, like just Lex's plan for what had to go right. So many things had to go right for that plan to be pulled off.
That's really funny.
And it's like when you actually sit down and read it, you're like, this is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous movie.
Okay,
like
I've got an argument against that, though. Because I do like the Lex Luthor in it, or chosen a different actor, but I like the concept of a millennial Lex Luthor who is kind of a Silicon Valley billionaire. I think
he was neurotic though, and like he was playing his same character from social media. Like he was literally the same character. Right. Social Network, Social Network, yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. It's called Ex Machina.
Yeah.
I always thought that they should have gone for something like that. The billionaire guy in that.
Yes. Well, I mean, there's like a list of actors I could pull off my head, right? I don't think it was complete. This is the other thing. I don't think it was completely Jesse Eisenberg's fault. He was written that way, right? He was written in the script to be this neurotic, crazy, like he's given that speech, right? And he's just like going off into his mind space, like insanity or something. And I'm like, Lex isn't insane. He's not insane. This is fundamentally not his character.
I think that was him. That was them saying that his mind is working so much on overdrive that he can't even keep up with his own mind. Like when he and if you listen to actually what he's saying in the speech, there is some kind of clever philosophical things. But let me ask you something.
The other thing is, I will say a caveat is that he's not actually Lex Luthor. Like in this movie, he's like Lex's son. That's what he's cast as in this movie.
We'll quickly go into that, but let me counter your point, because the same thing you say about Lex Luthor in BVS can really be said about the Joker in The Dark Knight. There is no way the Joker could do everything.
Are you talking about the plan?
The plan he had in The Dark Knight relied on so many things going right for him, relied on so many skill sets that he must have had that are never explained how he might have them. Surgery is included. How does he get all the bombs into that hospital with no, there's just and the whole city's on full alert for this guy, right? And he manages to, lay a foundation of bombs so that the whole thing explodes like that. That's crazy. That would have to be like all around the thing. There's a number of different things. I mean, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but when you think about the Joker's plan in that, he must have been telepathic. He must have been, a Freudian psychologist level kind of person in terms of knowing what people are going to do, knowing how people are going to react. And then the skill sets he had to have had as well were almost impossible. So why do we go off on, because in the end, I've got
a perfect answer for you.
With Lex Luthor, was his plan consistent with what the story was telling us? Not could you do it in real life, but with the comic book logic of the story we were watching, was it consistent?
No,
and
it falls apart right from the beginning. So he uses special bullets in the special force team or whatever that he does to go whack those people, and that I think it was Africa or some African country, and they burn it. They burn it with flamethrowers, right? Do an autopsy, you find those bullets. So Superman didn't kill them. And that's not how his laser beam vision works either. So immediately, straight away, his plan falls apart. Immediately, straight away, right?
Yes,
the answer I have for you with the plot thing, I completely agree. The Joker's plot is like chaotic, which falls in line with his character, firstly. Yeah, sure. But secondly, the two things that we've talked about is Jesse Eisenberg, the actor, and then we've talked about how the character was written, right, for BVS, and both have been criticized, right? The casting choice and also how he acts in that movie have both been criticized, right? The difference is that Nolan and Heath Ledger hid these plot holes better because his performance transcended the character he was trying to play. He was that good. He was that good on screen, and Nolan was that good of a. It's a fanboy thing maybe, but it's also just a valid point. Nolan was just that good at writing what he was writing. Nolan, not just Nolan, but the other writer on the movie. But him and Heath Ledger, him and Heath Ledger elevated that role to such a degree that you were distracted so much when he was on screen by his performance that the plot holes only came afterwards. Whereas Lex Luthor acting neurotic and stuff, and the red capes are coming. The red capes are it's me when he's doing that. I'm just like, this guy, I want to punch in the head. I'm not intimidated by him at all.
What you're supposed to want to do with a villain. You're supposed to
no. Lex Luthor is think about this. Okay, I've got a good example. Think about if they hired Bryan Cranston to play Lex Luthor instead of Jesse Eisenberg.
That would be a very, very typical choice, and I would.
No, hang on. It's a typical choice because we have a. This is where I win this point, because we have a theme of what we think of Lex Luthor, right? We have a theme of who we think Lex Luthor is from the comics, from what we've seen in previous Superman movies. We have an idea of what makes that character what he is. His intimidation, he's smart. And then when we say, oh, someone that acted as Walter White, right? And we bring him in and we play him, you're like, he's typical what people think. That's why when we think of Jesse Eisenberg, we're like, this guy's neurotic and being stupid and insane on screen. He doesn't fit the role. I tell you who Jesse Eisenberg would have fit? The Riddler. He would have fit the Riddler perfectly.
I think Paul Dino is a much better choice for Riddler. I don't.
No. But I'm saying, like, if we're going to pick like where Jesse Eisenberg would have fit better, he would have fit way better as the Riddler over Lex Luthor.
I don't think Jesse Eisenberg would be good as any supervillain. To be I really don't.
The neurotic thing would have been great as like a Riddler sort of type person.
I think people say that because they think of Jim Carrey, and Jim Carrey was a bad choice for the Riddler as well. They were both
hot take. Yeah. I think he was the best part of that movie. Like, just saying.
Him and no, because
Val Kilmer was a good Batman as well. I'll give him that.
I was going to say him and Val Kilmer were the best things about that movie because I could just go along with it. It wasn't quite as campy as Batman and Robin, and so I could
it's not as bad as that film. Nothing as bad as that film.
Nothing is as bad as that. But I was going to just to go back into it. I do think Jesse Eisenberg's performance was distracting. I do. But I do think he did the best he could. And he surprised me a little bit. I thought he was going to be even more Jesse Eisenberg than he actually ended up being in the movie. I think he toned it down in places. I liked the helipad scene. I thought the helipad scene was very clever.
That's the best scene that he's in the movie, like, in my opinion. That's the only scene that I like him as Lex in the movie. Because he confronts Superman and he's very... he's taunting, he's hateful. You see it in him, like, that he hates Superman. Like, so, like, he sees him as a threat. Like, that came across more in that scene than any other scene in BVS with Eisenberg. Like, and he was determined. There was like a determination inside of him. Whereas in the other scenes, he was like jittery and, oh, my dad made this room. I haven't changed this room since my dad left. And I was like, why are we talking about this?
Take the exact same dialogue. Just without all the jittery stuff. Is that a valid version of Lex Luthor?
Yeah, no, because it's clearly. Clearly he's like his son. You see, that's the thing. Like, and he's cast as his son. He's like Lex Jr. or something, but he named him after himself, and so that's why he talks about, like, Daddy left and. Jimmy Olsen. This is typical, and that's the thing. That's why people think, oh yeah, it works, because we think of Bryan Cranston, we think of intimidation. Like, think about him going.
More people over than I am, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I think the hate for Jesse Eisenberg outweighs any especially particularly as Lex Luthor outweighs like the thoughts of discussion about it, and that's fine. We can discuss it though. Like, I just feel like even Bryan Cranston delivering those things, it doesn't. He's not intimidating enough. Like, the lines aren't intimidating. He's not what Lex Luthor should be. Lex Luthor has an intimidating presence. Like, if you think of Gene Hackman even though I don't really like that movie, think about Gene Hackman in that role.
What do you mean you don't like the movie? That's the best.
Superman, the Christopher Reeve one. No, it's campy as hell for me, man. It's too much. I wasn't raised on it, so I don't have the nostalgia goggles on it when I see it.
You're going to use that Lex Luthor, Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor, the real estate scammer, as intimidating? He was not intimidating at all.
I'm talking about, like, the actor. Like, when we think about typical actors that can play intimidation roles, like, there are parts of that movie where he is intimidating or has like a goal, at least. Like, in BVS, you don't find out the goal until he's on the helipad scene. And he's doing all this stuff, like, supposedly, like, the whole peach tea, and he pisses in a jar and leaves it on a, like, judge stand or whatever.
That's really villainous.
I mean, that was villain, like, to leave his assistant to die too. I mean, that's villainous stuff, but it's like, it still comes with these. I mean, that part where he unwraps a lolly and sticks it at that guy's mouth. Like, this stuff is just, like, really.
That
stupid.
was
Like they walk into that building and it's like Google. It's like a Google building or something. It's just not what Lex Luthor should be in a film.
Let's just, because I want to go back from this. So what is like DC mythology? DC mythology for me, like especially DC mythology, as opposed to Marvel, is about reimagining these characters in different ways. And specifically, you always want to modernize it. You want to keep the core of the character, but you want to modernize it to fit the times. And I think what do you call it? Silicon Valley billionaire, a young Silicon Valley billionaire, is what a kind of genius Lex Luthor type would be these days. And Elon Musk, as we've said, the kind of Facebook creator, those kind of guys are what I would think, a modern day Lex Luthor. Now, did they cast it right? I don't think so. But at the same time, I like that as an idea, and that is what DC has always done. Because back in the 40s, what was Lex Luthor? He was the mad scientist. In the in the 90s, 80s, he was that corporate slick kind of billionaire that was around at that time. Nowadays, it would definitely be the kind of computer, digital, whatever kind of guys that would have been, would be the geniuses now. So that makes sense to me. I think the problem, as you mentioned, one of the big problems was I didn't like the fact that his dad was the one who made him a billionaire. I think he should have been a self-made billionaire.
Well, he should have just been Lex Luthor. You just touched on one of the biggest issues with the Snyderverse is the age differences between characters. So we have Superman who, 4 months ago became Superman, right? And we see Batman looking up at him, blowing up buildings and going, this guy's a threat. Batman's 40 years old and he's past his prime. This is a fundamental issue, right? Then we have Jesse Eisenberg, who's a kid. Fighting Superman is a man. You see what I'm saying? There are age issues in the Snyderverse. This is a fundamental issue. And this is what you say, what makes characters. What would have made it better than Bruce Wayne looking up and seeing that would have been an old, a middle-aged Lex Luthor, because then it would make sense that Lex Luthor wants to destroy him. Now, I'm not saying that's one of the best scenes in BVS, in my opinion, is that opening scene, because you get the threat, you get the understanding of why Bruce Wayne thinks this guy's a threat, right? But it essentially works better for the villain, who should be the eternal villain of Superman, for Lex to be seeing that. Or they could have done a co-scene where Bruce sees it, but also Lex sees it, and it's a middle-aged Lex seeing it. Because when you have young Lex who's 20, mid-20s or whatever, and you've got Superman who's in his 30s or whatever you want to call it, right? Then you've got Batman who's in his late 40s, right? You've got Batman who's in his late 40s.
It's too old.
Well, he's way too old. He's way too old to meet Superman at that time.
But to me, I think that Lex Luthor actually being younger accentuates his genius, right? The fact that he's so young would accentuate the fact that how smart he actually is to be this billionaire who's running this company, who's a scientist and all of these things. But let's just talk about the core characteristics of Lex Luthor first of all, right? Is age a core characteristic, being the same age as Superman? Because I don't see that as a core characteristic.
Well, he has to at least be mentally the same age. As in maturity wise, the same age. He can't be this jittery guy that on stage is talking about his father or whatever the hell, the existential, whatever he goes into this full philosophy rant or whatever it is. I can't remember it because it was that stupid. Stuff like that is no.
Don't. Then he can't.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he can't be all powerful or whatever it is. That. See, that speech I like. That was all right. But everything before that, the red capes are coming. The red capes are coming. It's oh man, it's just not intimidating to me. It's it's like,
but he's supposed to be a genius, and what he's doing is he's doing all of these kind of references to things, like intellectual kind of things, from things that he would have read, and he's obviously got like some kind of eidetic memory or whatever, like a photographic memory, and he's just and that's why, like, for instance, a lot of the things, and I don't want to go on about this too much, but like a lot of the things he says has these kind of double meanings in the film, and I think, oh, that is how a genius would speak, right? Like he's saying something. My favorite one, like the puns he used, because he uses a lot of puns in the film, but I always like the shortest path to Superman is a pretty little road called Lois Lane, right? So it's like just a play on words there, which is kind of clever. But again, I think the problem is people don't pick up on that because the performance is distracting. He's too like and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would totally agree with that.
I want to go into something else before, because we don't want to go on like overly long. But let's talk about like Batman for a moment, because a lot of people have a problem with his Batman, Zack Snyder's interpretation of Batman. In fact, let's have a free-for-all for now. You can even tell me, like, but we can talk about Batman, Wonder Woman, and stuff like that. Now, in terms of, again, these kind of interpretations of the characters, a lot of fans are like gung-ho, like, these are just not the characters. And my issue is, yes, I agree with them on Superman. I even, to some extent, agree with them on Lex Luthor. But when it comes to the other characters, that's where people lose me. Because I'm like, Flash, Wonder Woman, Cyborg's definitely Cyborg. Aquaman, it doesn't matter because he wasn't really iconic in that kind of way. So it didn't really matter what you did with him. But all of these other characters, it might be a bad film. I'll even give you that. But they are as much those characters as Spider-Man is Spider-Man in like The Amazing Spider-Man and The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Maybe not the greatest movies, but I recognize them as Spider-Man. So that's why I'm saying, with these other characters, I got it with Superman, but with these other characters, what is the issue there?
I think the biggest thing was Batman killing people. I think that was the biggest thing people like had a gripe over. But this is the thing, like Batman's killed people before. Like he just hasn't killed the Joker. Like he got close after Jason Todd's murder, but like he killed the death in the family. He got real close to killing the Joker in that, like almost beat him to death. But he stopped himself, or I should say, actually, Commissioner Gordon stopped him. But the thing is like, in this universe, we're talking about a guy that lost so Zack Snyder confirmed that was Dick Grayson that got killed, right? Not Jason Todd, right? So that's another thing that people were upset about, right? But yeah, he said Dick Grayson was the one that was killed. That's his suit on the wall saying the joke's on you, right? In BVS. So that's an issue, right? Straight away. But then, so he's upset. He's broken. He's a man that's lost a lot of things. He's jaded. He doesn't live in his own home. Like Wayne Manor's been left to ruin. So yeah, he doesn't care anymore. I don't think he doesn't have a code anymore when it comes to police. He just does what he thinks is right, and he'll take out people if he needs to. So we see that scene in this warehouse, which is now renowned as probably the greatest Batman scene we've seen for a lot of people, where he does a lot of. I don't think it is. I think it's a cool scene. It reminded me of Arkham Knight, but the Arkham games. But
the backup scene from Batman Begins. Anytime over that.
Yeah, that's the best. Yeah, that is the best scene. Yes, I would agree with you there. It's comic book BS. But it's amazing because bats don't work that way. But it's a great scene for Batman. But yeah, I think a lot of people have issues with that. I don't have a big problem with Batman except for his age, as I said previously. I will fight you on the Flash, though. There's issues with the Flash's character, especially in Justice League Snyder Cut. He's not a fully formed a fully formed character. He's a jokester. This is like Barry Allen is a jokester. He in the Justice League. He's the guy making the jokes. He's the comic relief of the team.
Right.
You'll see that in the comics. You'll see that in his own comics. You'll see that in the Justice League comics, and you'll see that in the Justice League movies. If you watch them, he is the jokester.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree. That's why I understand why people have a problem.
Ezra Miller is not a jokester in this movie. He says things that are funny, but he's not joking on people. He usually pays out in his jokes. That's his whole thing. He'll make fun of Batman. He'll make fun of Superman. He pays out on characters, right? That's where the laughs come from. In this one, he was awkward. He wasn't sure of himself. He didn't know his powers. He talks about somewhat of the Speed Force, but doesn't really go into it. He's got blue lightning, not yellow lightning. It's a small thing, but Zoom has blue lightning. So this is key to speedsters in the Flash universe, especially a big fan of the Flash like I am, and a lot of people are. That puts people off the Flash, right? He's not that. He's got a really bad suit. The suit is not good. It's bad design. It's not like, dude, the CW, a TV show, does a better representation of the Flash character, the core character, than Zack Snyder did. I know I'm saying it does a better version, especially in the first 2 seasons. It's terrible now, but in the first 2 seasons of The Flash, it does a better representation of the Flash as a core character, right? As his core, what he's about, right? What he's about. That's what I'm talking about. We're talking about the core that makes up a character. They do better in that than they do with Ezra Miller in the Justice League movie. He is not the Flash. He's a speedster who doesn't know what he's doing. And like even in the Justice League version where we don't have that just save one, he's just running down the stairs going, "Are you okay?" Instead of going downstairs and punching like these parademons 1,000 times before they can see him. Like Batman is doing more damage. Dude, the Flash is OP, right? He's next to Superman. He's as powerful, like he's faster than Superman. He's literally dude, he's hang on. He's serious sometimes, but I'm talking about he's a jokester when it comes to the Justice League. He is. Go watch Justice League. Well, go watch any Justice League animated movie. He's a jokester.
I was going to answer Bruce Wayne here that yes, Barry is serious in the comics sometimes, and also it's actually mainly from like the 90s and stuff like that, where his character hasn't actually been really fully formed. So
it hasn't evolved. I mean, they did Rebirth, where he's a lot more serious.
When Jeff Johns actually started writing him, that's when they gave the backstory to Barry Allen that we all know and love now, of his mother being killed and his father being in prison. Before that, his parents were just alive and just like, So the Flash has been a work in progress for a long time.
Yeah. And I think they've solidified it a lot. Like New 52, they tried something different. No one liked it. No one liked anybody in New 52, except for maybe Batman. That was the only arc that people liked in New 52. That's why they did Rebirth, and they just rebooted it all back to what it was. But like Flash, I'm not saying the guy is like every second he's on screen or every second he's in a comic book he's making a joke. He's not like Deadpool. That's what I'm not saying about the character. But a key point of the character
has always been the more humorous one. And
yes.
that isn't even technically true, because that's actually more from the Justice League animated show. If you go back and read Wally West comics, when Wally West was the Flash for a long time, he wasn't joking that much.
I'm talking about Barry Allen, though. We're not talking about Wally West. We're talking about Barry Allen, the speedster.
I'm just saying, like. But for me, why it doesn't bother me is because I feel like they took the best of both worlds in the Zack Snyder universe, which is they took Barry Allen's compelling origin story, which is much better than Wally West. Wally West is just a legacy character. He doesn't really have that great an origin. But they took Wally West's personality, aspects of Wally West's personality and aspects of Barry Allen's personality, and kind of meshed it together. Now, we can talk about the execution, whether the execution worked for you or not. But I do see that there are times where, as you said, Barry Allen or the Flash is seen as the comic relief in the Justice League. So for me, that works. Like him being a comic character, it doesn't always have to be that way, but it can be that way. I don't think.
Well,
I
like
think
he's
even
like, when I say comic relief, I'm not saying he's like the funny man. What I'm saying is like he's a smart ass. Like that's like what he does. He like pays out on other characters and makes fun of them, especially Batman. Like, so it's like for being too serious or whatever, you know, whatever it is. Like, I'm not saying that he needs to do that every single scene he's in the movie, right? But the problem with Barry Allen in the Justice League movie is that he's unsure of himself. He's not a fully formed character, and that goes back to the point we said earlier, where we've got a fundamental issue with not having these characters introduced in separate movies, where we have to now introduce them in one movie and try to make them work all together to have a vision that's cohesive. And so when you're trying to juggle all those things, so we've seen the Wonder Woman movie, so we know what Wonder Woman's about. We know what Batman's about because everyone knows what Batman's about. We know what Superman's about, right? Because we know what Superman's about because everyone knows who Superman is.
This is the thing that I think that's an assumption, because when you think about it, the last, really popular version of Superman that was put out to the general audiences was actually Superman 78 and the second movie. After that, there's just been Superman Returns, which was...
Well, what I'm saying is, like, Superman is generally known like a universal character. And I think you're kind of discounting the people that like watch the cartoons. They don't read the comics, but they watch the cartoons when they were children. Like, so
not as many people watch those cartoons as say something like The Dark Knight or Batman Begins. Or
that's true. I would agree with you because they're universally renowned as great films.
I think you needed to reintroduce Superman as if, just the way that Nolan did in Batman Begins. He wrote that film as if you didn't know who Batman was, it doesn't matter. If you had no idea of what Batman was, you could still watch that film, get into it, and be like, oh. Whereas with Man of Steel, there was, I think there was a lot of like, oh, Superman is a symbol of hope because we know it from the comics. It didn't show you why in the film he's a symbol of hope. It's some cool
they did take they took like they expected audiences to know certain things, I suppose, about the characters. I feel like they did that more with BVS than they did with Man of Steel, and that's why that movie, like, that's where BVS, a lot of it fails. But I feel like it even does it further in Justice League when we add new characters to a film. We don't really explain them. Like, we get a massive like explanation of Cyborg, right? And like very little of Flash, except that he can do time stuff, right? And it's like very expositional. And then people assume everything else about the other characters because we've seen the Wonder Woman film, so we know what's going on. But like, I feel like Barry, as a Flash fan, Barry Allen it was not done justice in that movie, and I don't like the creative direction of this Blue Lightning crap. Like, I think he is.
He must be. I'm hoping so.
But like, see, Bruce, this is a problem. So I'll go with that last comment. This is a big issue. You see, this is a problem, is that they're doing the first Flash movie as a Flashpoint movie. This is bad. This is a bad thing.
And the writer as well.
We've had one movie with the we've had technically two movies, but if we take the canon, because Warner Brothers sees Justice League as the canon, right? So we've got a Flash who doesn't know anything about himself, right? He doesn't know how to be a hero. And then the next movie is his solo movie, they're doing a Flashpoint.
They should have done the Fumiyawa film. They really should have done the Rick Fumiyawa film. It's a bad idea. Even if they wanted to rush the Flashpoint, they should have just done it back to back. Just done Flash 1 and then the Flashpoint movie, because you need to have that investment in him caring about his mother, in him having not, what he's like without his mother, going back to see like a little bit of what happened, and him
casting Supergirl in that movie. That's clear because they can't get Cavill for that movie, so they're going to have Supergirl in it instead of Cavill. Right?
Yeah.
This is just terrible ideas coming from them right now.
This is why I have to say that I'm not for restore the Snyderverse, but I actually think it's a better plan. I'm sorry, than what Warner Brothers is presenting to me at the moment. It really is.
I think, there's a third option. I think the third option is much better. Recast everything and start from scratch.
No, I don't think that's necessarily a good plan.
You have to. You can't have Ben Affleck. He's not coming back, man. Ben Affleck won't come back.
You've got Patterson, so that's fine. The rest of them are okay.
Wonder Woman, dude, she's going to do, if it even gets to Wonder Woman 3, you'll have Gal Gadot for one movie. I'm telling you, she's following Patty over to Star Wars. She won't do another Wonder Woman without Patty Jenkins, and Patty Jenkins is done with Warner Brothers. Zack Snyder is done with Warner Brothers. Like, you
think Patty Jenkins is done with Warner Brothers? Really?
Yeah, she moved over to Star Wars, man. She's moved over to Star Wars.
Yeah,
she's doing the Rogue Squadron movie or whatever. She's done. They just need to recast everything and start from. Dude, this is an Elseworlds universe, right? Right? This is Elseworlds. That's Zack said that. Warner Brothers has said that. They need a prime universe. They need to set the prime characters of the prime universe. They need to just go with it and just go. Like, I think that's the way to fix this. Doing a Flashpoint, man, because you know what they're going to do with Flashpoint? This is what they're going to do. You've heard them they're doing the Black Superman movie, whether it's Val Zod or this other fool that had two issues, right? They're doing Black Superman movie. I'm telling you that the Flashpoint movie, they're going to recast Cavill, they're going to recast the Kent to this Black Superman, right? We're going to, or Supergirl, one of the two. We're going to get a recasting of Wonder Woman because I'm telling you, Gal's not down. I feel like she's gone. We're going to get a recasting of Batman, right? Because Matt Reeves says this is a standalone thing. It's not part of the universe at all, right?
No, so we've got that. And as Batman, as the main...
the problem is, man, they need to do what Marvel's done and actually sign people for 6 movies. So 3 single movies. So Chris Evans, when he first signed to Captain America, right? He signed for 6 movies, 3 Captain America movies and 3 Avengers films from the start. Marvel was smart with their contracts, except for Robert Downey Jr., which they had to pay $72 million alone to come back for Age of Ultron, right? And they had to renegotiate his contract every time because he was smart. He didn't sign these 6 movies. You know, Chris Evans was a nobody before Captain America, really, right? Like, same with Chris Hemsworth. He was like in the Star Trek 2009 film, and then he was Thor, right?
Yeah.
So like these Marvel launched these guys' careers, right? But this is the problem: is like Warner Brothers has not been smart with this franchise. Dude, in my opinion, and I'm a DC fan, right? DC characters are more interesting, right? And Marvel has copied them a lot of times. Like they copied Flash and made Quicksilver. They copied Vision is literally Martian Manhunter. Like they have copied characters. Yeah. And DC has the best villains out of everyone. And they're not like hamstrung by Disney rules of like making it kid friendly or whatever. They can do hardcore movies like the Joker standalone film, et cetera, right? Or they can do, crazy things like The Dark Knight. But the problem is that we have now a problem where there's no head like that is making these creative decisions. There's no, like, it's literally Warner Bros. Is like Star Wars, right? Like Lucasfilms, right? They're the same thing. There's no one in charge of the creative direction. So we've got these people making random films, like, and sucking, like not getting these fundamental character traits correct.
I think you've got a good point, but they've got Walter Hamada now, but he doesn't know the comics. He's like a horror.
He needs to hire somebody that knows the comics and is the creative head.
Yeah, but basically what he's doing, and this is my theory on it, he's trying to bring that horror, the plan that he had that made his horror movies so successful, which is do a really cheap movie and get like a little, a little profit, right? Like that will be acceptable for, investors and stuff like that. So that's why Zatanna, Blue Beetle, all of these guys, and it isn't going to work. The superhero genre, you have to go big or you have to go home. And that's why,
I don't necessarily agree there. You can do smaller stories with smaller scopes and it can work. It really depends on the script and the characters. Because look at the Marvel Netflix series.
You have to build up to a Justice League. That's what we're here for, right? We're here for it to build up to a Justice League, to a cohesive story where the Justice League are going on adventures, and you want to see them in their separate solo things first. And Zatanna and Blue Beetle ain't part of that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mind you doing those kind of movies at all, you know, and you could do them on the cheap, but you need those core things. And you, like, so something like Green Lantern, you can't get away from that, man. There's no escaping it. Green Lantern is a core member of the group. And to do a Green Lantern movie, you have to give it a budget. And the problem is that they went with Zack Snyder, and for better or worse, I like Zack Snyder's Justice League. I'm not like you. I'm not that big on Man of Steel. I do kind of like elements of BVS, but I think it's a deconstruction of the characters. I think it's more Watchmen than it is Batman v Superman. But I think he got something, you know, because I think what happened is the studio kind of interfered a bit and told him before he even started filming, you've got to change things with his Justice League. And I think it actually helped him so that the characters, you know, you saw Superman actually being Superman, even if it was for a small amount of time. Henry Cavill, for the first time, like Superman in those scenes, like when he was out in, you know, the Kent farm, and, you know, when you heard the father, you know, Pa Kent's giving him the inspirational speech for the first time, which should have been done in Man of Steel, but fine, we get it in Zack Snyder's Justice League. You get that for the first time. So for me, it's like from this place, if they can control Zack Snyder a bit, they can move on with this universe, but then also get some other directors like Gareth Evans, like the guy who directed Judge Dredd, for instance, people who fit the kind of tone and sensibility of DC and what makes it different from Marvel. And therefore, and in that way, I think what you could do, or even the director of the Joker, for instance, they could keep on with him. I think if they do things that way, they can actually manage to keep the Snyder fans and keep fans like us who weren't so big on the Snyder thing by tightening up the stories, you know, by tightening up those stories, you know, give us a Man of Steel 2, get with Henry Cavill versus Brainiac, give us, you know, like a Wonder Woman 3, you know, with whatever, and just tighten up the story a little bit, get new voices, get new directors who fit that sensibility, and build the story from there. I really think that scrapping everything, you're going to lose a bunch of fans. I really do think that.
I'll be honest, I don't think they care. Like after Anne's, like that article, man, where Anne like had those direct questions about like the air cut, etc., like that was the kill throw, man. That was like, he got his trilogy, we're done. Like I don't think, and then she even mentioned that people like executive producers getting death threats from the fan. She's just like, yeah, no. That to me was like the death knell of like Snyder fans. Like they don't care if they lose them. Like they don't. Like, and they're like
emotional decision rather than a business decision. Because
I feel like I feel like it was both, because I feel like the toxic, and I'm talking about all Snyder fans here when I say this, but I think the toxic aspect of the fandom, I think they're just willing to throw everything, the baby out with the bathwater per se, to get rid of these people. I just don't think they care. And also, where were these people with BVS? Like, that's the question I have, because that movie, like, where were they with that movie? Like, that movie didn't. That movie almost lost money, man. That's the thing. Like
it made much more than say Birds of Prey. You know,
that's true. But Birds of Prey is part of the Snyder universe. So is Suicide Squad part of the Snyder universe. Yeah, it is. It's counted as part of the Snyder universe. This is, dude. You know how you're saying the same tone earlier? You're saying just now. You just said we're bringing other directors and we can keep the same tone. Those movies are in the same tone as the rest of Snyder's universe.
Birds of Prey was not in the same tone. It was so trying to be like an R-rated Marvel movie, and the writing sucked.
It was in the same tone as Suicide Squad, though, and Suicide Squad was in the tone of BVS.
Squad was a little bit darker.
You know how I know this, man? You know how you know this? Because the Warner Brothers directly asked for the reshoots on the Suicide Squad because they were afraid, because the backlash of BVS was it's too dark and mopey. So then they changed Suicide Squad on David Ayer. They made him change it from like an R rating, and they made it all comedic. And that's why they were like, this is what the audience wants. And no, the audience didn't want that.
But David Ayer's directing and tone still shined through, even in between all of the things that they were trying.
It's true. There are parts that did.
And if you look at David Ayer's films, right, before like Training Day, you know, the other films that he's done, you can see that tonally, he's much more of a kind of, I wouldn't say an auteur, but like he's much more in line with someone like Zack Snyder than he is with like, say, the MCU.
And that's
right?
That's going, you know, what you were saying earlier is they were picking directors in the tone of Snyder because they didn't want this to be an Elseworld story. They wanted it to be the main universe, and now they're saying it's an Elseworld story to cover for the fact that it wasn't successful. This is a fact. Like, and so now what they have to do is they have to pivot completely away from this. That's what I'm saying. They have to restart, because no one, like, only the Snyder, dude, this is the problem. Only the Snyder fans want Snyder to continue. No one else wants that. No normies want it. Nobody that's other DC fans want this, because they're done. They're so sick of that hashtag. They're sick of the toxicity. Like, they're finished with it, man. Like, and also people just don't, like, we've been talking about it the whole time. People don't like Superman in this universe. People don't like the Batman in this universe. People have problems with, like, the only person they don't have problems with is Wonder Woman. But then again, Wonder Woman 84 was abysmally bad. Like, a terribly written movie, terrible in every way.
Actually made her better. Actually, I think that
this is the thing. Gal Gadot, she acted phenomenally in the movie. She was great in the movie as an actor, but the script, the writing, the CGI in parts were terrible. Like, it's just a terrible production. No, Wonder Woman Part 2, man, 1984.
Oh, okay, no.
I'm saying her acting went up another level. Like, Gal Gadot's acting went up another level in that movie. That was the best thing about Wonder Woman 84. The rest of it is a dumpster fire. Like, absolutely. And so, like, so what we have now is we have Wonder Woman, one of the second best thing, considered to be the second best production that they have, right, has now had a dismal failure as its second movie. So if Aquaman 2 fails, man, if Aquaman 2 isn't like $1 billion success, they will. I'm telling you, they will restart.
They're not even going to restart, dude. They're just going to stop with. They're just going to make Batman movies. And that's what
they'll just make standalones.
No, and not even standalones of everyone else. Just Batman movies. They'll be like.
Can I just say something too? I'm a huge Batman fan. I really am. I'm so sick of Batman. Like, I'm so sick of it. But it comes from I'm sick of comic book films, man. Like, I just feel like it's so oversaturated, man. They like, and I feel like everything needs to be a franchise now because Marvel's been so successful. Every other company's looking for that franchise, and so they just keep making franchise movies like Alien, Terminator, whatever it is, right? And it's like stop making Batman films. Like, just stop it. Like, this Matt Reeves Batman, I'm going to see it. Obviously, I'm going to see it, right?
It looks amazing,
but it's like it looks okay. I'm not happy. I kind of wish it was Hush instead of the Riddler. Like, it makes more sense that it's Hush instead of the Riddler.
Good Riddler
dude,
movie.
It's a year two. It's a year two Batman, man. Like, it makes more sense in the timeline of Batman for it to be Hush than the Riddler. Like, but it's fine.
It's like element of that comic. That's why you're saying that.
Yeah. Well, no, that's what. Yeah, it does. But it's like the Riddler is wearing like a tape mask. It's like, I don't know. It's in the vein of Seven. I hope it goes real hardcore there. I hope it goes real dark. Right? They have the ability to do it, but I'm not sold on Patterson as Batman.
I'm sold. Patterson's a great actor, but
he's a good actor. I'm not attacking his acting, but I always just see shovel face when I see his face. Like, I just see the scoop face, and like, I can't help but chuckle, and so I can't take him seriously, and that's the problem. And I hate the bat suit. That little look we get. that bat suit, that it's kind of doing like that Earth 2 like owl look, because it has like the collar here, but the forehead is humongous and the ears sit right back here. I don't like the cowl at all, like the design. And then there's rumors that the bat like symbol on his chest is made of the gun that killed his parents. I swear, if that is the truth, if that is a plot line, I'll walk out of the cinema. That's the dumbest thing they could do. That's the corniest. It's the corniest thing they could do to Batman. It's worse than the Bat credit card from Batman and Robin, in my view. Like at least that movie, they knew what they were making in that. But it's like
we can get back to the Batman movie. But where I'm fed up of Batman is that even if you look at the DCEU, you look at like the movies that they've greenlit, it's always like whenever they want to experiment or do something, it's like if there's a Batman character in it, they'll greenlight it. Like Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey, even the Joker, which was amazing, right? It's just like if there's a Batman character, we'll go forward with that, right? Whereas the other characters just get the shaft in that kind of way. It's like I want to see a fucking Amazons movie, just the best part of Wonder Woman 1984 was the Amazons, right? So let's see a fucking Amazons movie. How did they get there? I want to see, them take chances with other characters. I thought Shazam was kind of awesome, and I'm glad they're doing a Shazam 2 and they're moving forward with that. But Superman again, like where's our Man of Steel 2? Or just reboot. I don't give a fuck about Henry Cavill that much. I like him, but like if he doesn't want to play ball, reboot. Let's get this going. We want to get to the next kind of thing. So where, as I said, where it comes to Batman, what pisses me off is not so much the Batman standalone movies. That's fine. You need him anyway, because if you're gonna make a Justice League movie, you need him anyway. But it's where it's like, let's make Joker's girlfriend a movie. I'm like, I don't care about fucking Joker's girlfriend. I'm sorry. It's not like it's side dish. I care about the Joker, right? Don't give me like his girlfriend, or like why do we have to have two Batmans in this in the Flash movie? Can we not just have a Flash origin movie, right? And then maybe go on to, and then it's like they're not even in the Flash movie. It's supposed to be the Flashpoint. Where are the fucking Amazons and the Atlanteans then, right? Why are they not in the movie? Why is it two Batmans? And so that's my main problem with why I get fed up with Batman, more so than the Matt Reeves Batman movie. I'm fine with that. That looks awesome, because Batman's probably like second, third favorite superhero. So anyway, so let's get to some of these comments before we go. Wow, there's a lot of comments. Let me. So Vishal, by the way, I want to say something to Vishal quickly, because he said something here. Has he deleted it? So anyway, mate, I hope everything's going well for you in India, because I know what's going on there at the moment. I know you said a comment earlier, but I can't quite find it. So I hope everything's all right with you there, bro. So blah blah blah. Let's just do randomly. So, do you mean he is completely Superman before he is raised by the Kents?
No. So I was saying like he was completely Superman at the moment that he appears from the Fortress of Solitude after his training from Jor-El. So he's already a fully formed man, and then he gets his purpose for why Jor-El sent him to Earth in that training, and then that's what makes him Superman. He has his love for humanity from the Kents, and he has his like purpose of why he was sent there by his actual father. So that's what I was saying. That's the fully formed. That's what makes Superman. Those two things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I think he picked the wrong story for BVS. Yeah, I think it could have been a World's Finest. I think that would have been probably a little bit better.
Yes.
Maybe don't make Superman an evil, emotionless. See, dictator, and people won't dislike Superman. And you know, this is the fucking thing about Zack Snyder's Superman, because I'm like really annoyed that you've had these two movies where Superman isn't Superman. Basically, he wanted a 5-story arc before he makes him Superman, which is ridiculous, right? But you have Man of Steel, he's not Superman. You have BVS, he's not Superman. You finally make him Superman in Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? At least something I can, broadly speaking, recognize as Superman, and you want to make him evil the next movie, so as you can set up another Batman v Superman movie. Didn't we already do that? Right? Like it blows my mind that like right where you actually have him as the Superman we know and love, you want to like immediately go to that storyline. Like if I was him, I would do like say a for the next movie I would do a what's it called, Tower of Babel. Let Darkseid build up, do something in between, do something that will suit Zack Snyder. I know how he loves Batman, so Batman beating the Justice League, that would be right down his alley. So I think that would be a much more fun movie to do. Any comment on that?
I don't think. I don't think Zack Snyder is going to be back. That's my first comment on that. I just don't think he's coming back. And why would you? Like, look what they did to him in BVS when his daughter, like, what happened to him, like, and they just broomed him. Like, just I would never want to work for a company again if they did that to me. So, like, I don't see him doing that. And if he did come back, I think that's a good idea. It's in his vein, but I think Injustice is more in his vein. But again, we need, before we do these Elseworld stories, we need a prime universe where we have movies that set up these characters so we can see the difference in an Elseworld story from the prime universe. Because at the moment, we don't have any prime universe characters. We really don't. There's no prime universe characters. Even they even say that Shazam is it. They have the Batarang, right, from Batman, and it's in the Zack Snyder universe. So Shazam is even in the Zack Snyder universe. So they need to really just do the prime. They need the prime universe so that we can have Elseworld stories in the future. Because they could do, dude, imagine right now if they had done the prime universe from the beginning, right? And we've had like Man of Steel 2, Batman, they've all been really good successes. You know what they could do now? They could do an Elseworld story and bring in some director, and they could do Red Sun as a live action.
I was about to say that. I was like literally.
And people would lose their minds. They'd be like, what? Superman grew up as a communist? Like, it would be crazy. Like, but people would watch it because like, what is this?
You can't. And JG, hello, dude. Quickly, I have to say something. Like JG, I don't know if you've ever been on with HalogenHelix before, but
he's just called me poor man. It's so good.
Oh, poor man.
Yeah.
JG, one of my boys. I want to say something just quickly to one of the subscribers, because it says here, hey man, today my grandmother died. Please pray for her soul, and it would mean a lot to me and my family. Dude, I'm really sorry to hear that, man. I hope you feel better. Really, really, yeah. I had a similar thing with my grandmother, so I had a really good relationship with her, and yeah, when she passed, I was like a little bit of a wreck. But I'm sorry to hear that. I hope she had a good innings, and yeah. Sorry again, man. I don't know if you want to add to that, or if we can move on. You're okay?
No,
everyone's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, JG.
That's not.
JG, man.
Hey, yeah, bro. Let me jump out and come back in. This weird echo. So let me jump out and come back in.
Oh, okay. Cool, man. Let's go on to the next one. Send me a message, John. Hopefully you aren't busy. Hopefully the stream. Oh, okay. Right. There we go. Working. Blah, blah, blah. So he says for Shazam, it is about family and heroism. Yeah, I think that's right. That is true. Hey, man. So what did you want to say about this discussion? Do you hate Zack Snyder?
I have a love-hate relationship with Zack Snyder, right? Because he's a visual genius. I love what he does with the visuals, but his storytelling is it's much to be desired, right? Now I love hearing you guys go back and forth. You make us Americans sound so stupid when we're discussing things. You guys are so intellectual with it. That just irritates me. But yeah, you look at his films, right? Let's go back to Dawn of the Dead.
Very, very smart. I don't know why he's always saying this shit. Go on.
Let's go to Dawn of the Dead, right? And I think I'm sure that was a Zack Snyder film, right? And he did a great job with that. And let's fast forward to Sucker Punch, right? Which is a visual masterpiece. But the story to me is, what the hell are you doing? To this day, I still don't understand that film. No matter how much anybody explains it to me, I just don't understand it, right? And let's go to Man of Steel, which was to me
Sucker Punch. I don't know what he's talking about. That we've got to do a stream.
I mean, I like Sucker Punch. I just don't get it.
That is crazy, bro. I don't know what's going on in that movie. Doesn't she fight a dinosaur or like a dragon?
There's all different eras where she fights. Like there's a World War II part and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that happens, but it's all here.
Yeah, and it's like an anime.
Yeah,
it's like you take an anime, put them on a screen verbatim. It just doesn't make sense.
It's like she's fighting a physical thing that's happening in the real world, but what you're seeing is inside of her mind. Yeah. She's got she's got some psychological condition that's like part of it. So, but yeah, Sucker Punch is like a big journey into the human psyche.
Yeah. But even if you like that movie, how do they watch that and go, yeah, let's make him the architect of our DC universe?
Yeah, no, it was silly. Without a creative director, they let him do what he wanted, and then they blamed him for it at the end of the day. And it's like, dude, you let him have the keys, so what are you doing?
Exactly. That's the point I'm making, is like, he's a visual genius, but somebody else needs to do the storytelling, right? Because
he's way better as a visual director,
thank goodness for Nolan, right? Because Nolan wasn't involved in telling what that film would have been. But as a film, I loved it. Not a great Superman story, but it was a great film, right? Let's go to BVS. That was just a clusterfuck of just what the hell, right? And agreeing with Paul when they did the whole, I guess you want to call it a director's cut of it, when they had the stuff that should have been in it, that made it make sense. Okay, it's bearable. I can bear this film now, right? And we go to Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League, which I gave it an A as a comic book film, but maybe a B- as just the storytelling, all that stuff is involved, right? And I guess the topic is who's to blame, Snyder? Or what was the topic? Because I'm bouncing around from stream to stream.
It does. We've kind of gone in and out of it, but does that?
Oh, dude, I'm talking for no reason. Then go ahead.
No. I want to hear your take on it. So does Zack Snyder? Oh, wait a second.
See, you forgot.
No, I've got the wrong question up. But yeah, okay. So it's, does Zack Snyder or the fans not understand the DC characters? So is it Zack Snyder or the fans who don't understand the DC characters? So for instance, Superman, is a big point of contention, and even Batman is with his killing. So is Zack Snyder right, or are the fans right about that?
Well, it's kind of a bit of both, right? Because you have Snyder, who seems like, okay, I'm going to take these characters and put my own spin on them, right? And you have the fans, you have comic book fans, you have the animated film and series fans, then you have just regular film goer fans, right? Each one of them are kind of battling of, who's the real Superman? And Superman's really the main problem, from what I've seen, right? Yeah. You have people who love Christopher Reeve when he was Superman, right? And you have people who love the original comic book Superman. You have people who love the new 52 Superman, which I don't. You have people who like the Rebirth. You have people who like the Lois and Clark Superman, right? So many different interpretations of the characters.
But the problem is, no matter whether they've liked them or disliked them, most people have said every version of them was Superman. They might not have liked the story, but every version of them was Superman. Zack Snyder is the only one who gets that criticism that it isn't actually, it isn't actually the character. And I'm just kind of curious as to why that is with, I think New 52 got those complaints as well. with Superman, and it's probably because it was based on that New 52. The whole edifice was on that. Even though it was unpopular in the comics, they decided to translate that to film, and I think that was probably a big mistake that they made.
And you know, it's quite possible when we see Man of Steel, had his journey to become Superman had been different, maybe we would have seen a different Superman, right? I heard you guys talking about, you know, Paul Kent getting killed in a tornado, right? And you hear him saying, maybe you should have let the kids die, right? And that's not the Paul Kent that we've seen over the decades. And had we seen the Paul Kent that we saw in Zack Snyder's Justice League when he says, "Take flight, my son, take flight," maybe we would have gotten a different Superman.
Yeah,
in Man of Steel.
I agree.
But because we got what we got, and because we got what we got, that Superman that I saw in that film pretty much matched what we should have gotten when you base it off his journey, right?
Yeah.
That kind of melatonin, kind of I didn't like his Superman. I'm sorry, I just didn't like it. But as a film, it was very enjoyable. The fight scenes, I still nitpick at that. And Nerdman, you did make a point when you said when I said you're fighting Zod, Gamora, I'm getting mixed up. The other Kryptonian guys, right? And how has he been able to stand toe to toe with those guys who have military backgrounds, it shouldn't have happened? But you made perfect sense when you said Clark Kent was raised on Earth. He knows what he's doing on Earth as compared to those Kryptonians, right? But still, you know, you can nitpick a lot of things, but
I know what you mean, but I just think it's stupid that he was able to take them on. They should have just established that they hadn't absorbed enough of the sun to be as powerful as him or something like that. But anyway, because you've come on quite late, I am gonna try and wrap this up a little bit. Just Bruce Wayne says the idea of Bruce Wayne being old like Ben makes sense because his rogues are established. What do you guys make of that?
Well, how old was Bruce Wayne in this film? Out of curiosity.
Oh,
you're on mute, dude.
He's late 40s or mid 40s for sure.
Late 40s, mid 40s.
I mean, it's Ben Affleck's age, so
yeah.
I just double check it. We're going back to so Ben Affleck currently is 48 years old. So yeah, he's mid 40s in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you think about it,
for an old Batman, Ben Affleck wasn't old enough. You know what I mean? He didn't look old enough to really make that make sense. It was kind of still a middle-aged Batman. Because I thought he was going for the Dark Knight Returns kind of Batman, and that Batman's like almost 60 or something like that.
He's like 50s, 60s. Yeah.
And he's more of a brute as opposed to, agile fighter that we've grown to see.
The fact is, main universe, you need Batman and Superman to be the same fucking age. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman should be around the same age, looking. To me, if you want to do a Dark Knight Returns graphic novel, I think he would have been perfect for that. Zack Snyder, just adapt the comic, literally just adapt the comic like he did, and I think they would have had a ton more success than what they actually did. So let's go on to something else. I'm doing them randomly. Sorry, guys. I can't go through every single one. I find it ridiculous how Hamada isn't capitalizing on the Snyderverse. What do you guys make of that?
What's there to capitalize on?
Exactly.
I'm dead serious on this. The Snyderverse fans are there. I'm not knocking you guys when I say this, right? Whoever's out there that likes the Snyderverse, that's on them. That's good for you. You're a small minority. Clearly, look at BVS. Look at the money it brought in. Look at even Man of Steel. Look at the money it brought in. Justice League. Look at the money it brought in. And by the way, the Justice League Warner Brothers did is canon. They've said that's what they're releasing on 4K. That is canon in Warner Brothers' eyes. Justice League, right? They call it Justice League. Cool. So Zack Snyder's Snyder Cut is not canon in Warner Brothers' eyes. So there is no Snyderverse because it doesn't. Zack Snyder's cut doesn't exist in Warner Brothers like grand scheme of the universe. So it's over. Like,
got you.
That's just logical.
A question. No COVID. Zack Snyder's Justice League is released in cinemas. What does it make? Does it make the billion? Do you get
I don't think it would. I don't think it would have been done if it wasn't for COVID. They needed something for HBO Max.
I'm saying hypothetical. Zack Snyder,
if it was released in cinemas,
landed in cinemas, and
I don't even think with like Snyder Cut people watching it 4 times each, it still wouldn't crack $1 billion because normies would have been like, "I've seen this movie already."
No, it wasn't.
And you know what? I'm sorry to say that they did see the movie already because the plot points are exactly the same. They're collecting a bunch of cubes to unite them to reform the Earth. That's the same thing.
So, Norman, are you saying that had Joss Whedon's version not been out, if Zack Snyder's full vision had been in theaters, what would have done? Okay,
I mean, that's what I'm talking about.
You're saying they release a 4-hour movie in a cinema? It would never have happened. So we would have had to cut it down to 2 hours, right? That's the first issue.
No.
I love him, man. I love him.
Hang on. Let me finish. Warner Brothers had a mandate that they had to have 2-hour movies. That's why BVS was 2 hours.
I get it, but like, let's say theoretically, 3-hour.
They would never have done it because the cinema chains wouldn't have shown it. Because they can't.
Okay, how about this?
The cinema chains can't show that long length of movie, man, and then have them like because they want to be able to get as many seats in there as possible, like and viewing like times as possible. When you think about 4-hour plots in a cinema, you're not going to get as many as 2 hours. 3 hours. Still,
I'm just because you could have fit. You've admitted, like without some of the slow motion, without some of the scenes, you could have fit every bit of the good stuff in that film. I think into a 3-hour cut. Let's imagine a 3-hour cut in cinemas, and then he puts the 4-hour, epic cut on Blu-ray or something like that.
Would it have made like a lot of money?
Yeah.
I think it would have cracked even. I don't think it would have made $1 billion.
Oh wow. Well, I'm a switch it up.
You know why? I say why. Right? Because I think fundamentally Warner Brothers and Lucasfilms has the same problem. They have no creative direction with their massive franchise. They hire randoms to do their movies and write their movies, and that's why they've been failures. The sequel trilogy is a failure. It is. And if it wasn't for Mandalorian, Star Wars would be dead right now. This is a truth. And the reason it's a truth is because all the toys, all the marketing, everything has pivoted to the Mandalorian. No one cares about the sequel trilogy characters, right? So the same is for this. BVS killed the characters for Warner Brothers. No one wanted to see it. Like 75, dude. When you have a 75% drop in the weekend after your release, that is the death of a film. That is the death of a franchise.
Wonder Woman came out after that and made money. It made back.
It did make money. You know why? You want to know why it made money? Sorry, Snyder people. It wasn't directed by Snyder.
But it was in the universe.
It wasn't written or directed by the guy that failed to make BVS a success. This is the truth. Right?
Yes.
So people didn't want, and also Wonder Woman, the other thing is, Wonder Woman was a success because of word of mouth. People went to see that film. It didn't, like, if you look at its grossing weekend, people were excited for it, but the word of mouth pumped that movie hard. Whereas the word of mouth for BVS made it tank the second weekend.
Zack Snyder's Justice League, the word of mouth is quite good. I mean, in terms of the what it's rated on.
Hang on. The reason it's good is people are comparing it to Justice League and going, "Oh yeah, it's better than that." That's the word of mouth. That's literally what I say. Oh, it's better than that movie. Yes.
And then we're also assuming,
Point. I think it would have made $1 billion. I think it was on an upward trajectory. And
I think normies would have got that movie?
I think the popularity of Wonder Woman would have carried on because people would have wanted to see Wonder Woman again in the cinemas. That would have got butts into the seats for Zack Snyder's movie. And also, I think that it would have appeased the Snyder fans, but it would have actually been a little bit more popular than say his Batman v Superman, because the characters are a little bit more hopeful. Superman's a little bit more hopeful in where he should be.
Superman's in like 5% of the movie, though.
All right, but look, I know what you're saying. I get it. But I'm just saying.
Could you imagine? Hang on, let me ask you this. Could you imagine the ad? Hang on. Let me ask you this: the same ad campaign run right for the Snyder Cut, and we release it in cinemas, and then the word of mouth is, "Oh, Darkseid's not in this film. He just watches on from a boom tube." You think that's going to tank people's excitement for this movie?
No, because they will know that Darkseid's coming, just like they knew Thanos was coming in.
No. Not once did Marvel. Hang on. Not once did Marvel ever use one of their end credit scenes that featured Thanos. Not even in the Avengers movie did they use that as a feature in their trailer.
Yeah,
right? They never teased Thanos in their trailer, except for Infinity War when he actually came. So, like, this is the problem, is that when he advertised Darkseid, he advertised him as doing things. He did nothing in the movie. Nothing. We had a flashback scene where he was destroyed by Ares and Zeus and almost died, like falling back on his thing, right? And then that's it. That's all we had.
What's the problem? No, he had that scene where he was that was quite cool, actually, where he's like, "I will come and I'll crush the bones," or whatever he was talking about. I thought that was quite cool. He seemed quite sinister. I was interested in where this Darkseid would go. I did like the Darkseid in this movie. I thought he was.
Oh, that's fair.
Cool.
I'm not saying that people can't like it. I'm just looking at it from a practical standpoint. I don't see this movie getting good word of mouth. Like the word of mouth is, man. Like, this is the truth. The general word of mouth is.
Would have gone to it. So you're talking about at least 800 million. Right.
If we're talking about Snyder Cut, if we take Snyder Cut people out of this movie, right, as in people that are hype beasting it because they're Snyder Cut fans or they want the Snyderverse or whatever, because we're saying this movement never existed, right? That Snyder Cut movement never existed because BVS happens and then they make the Snyder Cut. It never existed. Hang on. I'm saying they never existed, right? And then we're saying that this movie is going to crack $1 billion after BVS.
Oh,
and then they hype beast in the trailer, man. They hype beast Darkseid a bunch of times. DC fans go to see the movie.
Wonder Woman had come out.
Wonder Woman was successful. It didn't crack $1 billion though.
No, I know it didn't crack $1 billion, but like that.
I'm saying Wonder Woman alone won't hype beast Justice League.
It didn't have a great
and
opening.
Then you come out. The same problems exist in this movie as in Justice League, man. But I'm saying the same issues in this movie exist in Justice League. It's the same plot. It's exactly the same plot. No one can argue that.
Executed so much better. You've got that flash scene at the end.
So, see who you say? Hang on. You see what you're doing though? Hang on. You see what you're doing to hype beast it? It's so much better than this one. We're talking as if this one never existed and we're just releasing this movie.
I said the flash scene was amazing. Where did
No, I'm saying but you just said it's so much better than this one, which is referring to Justice League. You see what I'm saying? No one can hype beast this movie without comparing it to the first one. You see what I'm saying?
I don't think so. I think the movies that's what I was saying. I think you have to. I think that's part of the reason some people are still against it, because they're like, oh, it's just similar to Justice League. Well, that's not Zack Snyder's fault. He told them to hijack his movie and make it worse, right? Like he didn't. Warner Brothers hijack my movie and make it worse. He just, so when you come back and you're watching his movie, I think you have to judge it from the perspective that you haven't seen the Joss Whedon version.
Yeah.
You just take it.
So if we take this movie, right? We take this movie. I tell you what would happen if it had come out at the time, right? Fully formed back then instead of Justice League. There'd be memes all over the internet right now of Aquaman's like sniff scene. There'd be memes everywhere of that. the music would be criticized so hardcore because it's not Hans Zimmer, right? The Wonder Woman theme, dude. The Wonder Woman theme is already a meme on the internet. But someone's done a supercut of every time it appears. Like there's like a pitch meeting thing where he just keeps playing it on his phone every time he mentions Wonder Woman, because every time she's mentioned in the movie, the theme plays of that woman crying or like whatever they're doing, right? Instead of the Zack Snyder fire theme from the original Wonder Woman. And everyone would be questioning that, going, the success of Wonder Woman, they're going, why is Hans Zimmer's score not over Wonder Woman instead of this thing every time she appears on screen? Like, this is big issues with this movie.
Just not as a criticism of what you're saying, but I'll tell you why I think that is. I reckon to realize he'd done Wonder Woman dirty in this movie. Like he hadn't got her, like, considering how popular she was, he hadn't given her enough epic scenes. So he was trying to make the scenes epic by putting that music over it. I don't think that
just
was
play the fire theme from Hans Zimmer. It's way better.
But that's honestly what I believe. He was trying to make her seem more godly and powerful, but it's like, dude.
Well, he did a terrible job because she kills Ares in her movie like 70 years before this one exists, right? 70 years before in this timeline, she kills Ares, right? And then she's struggling against Steppenwolf, who's a nobody.
She's struggling against fucking parademons, dude, in this movie. I'm
Her power level is completely like neutered in Justice League.
No.
People would be angry at that, man. And back then, when it first came out, that was the height of like certain movements. Dude, this movie would be crucified for what they did to Wonder Woman. I'm just saying, dude, there's a lot of problems if you think about it being released back at that time.
One of the things I disagree with people on this movie, everyone says the Superman coming back and beating up the Justice League is the best scene in the movie. Absolutely disagree. I think that sucked. I think, you go back to the Avengers and you think of Thor versus Iron Man, right? Epic. Thor versus the Hulk, epic. That's what you want to see. You want to see the heroes mix it up, fight a little. I'm not saying Superman shouldn't have won that fight. It's fine Superman winning that fight. But Wonder Woman and him should have had an epic fight, and then he takes her down, right? Then he finds a way of taking her down. Flash as well could have done a few, even though he's a rookie, could have done a couple of things just to fend Superman off for a while. I don't really care about Cyborg or Aquaman, to be honest, but even Cyborg could have controlled a tank or something and shot at Superman. That scene should have been much more imaginative. This is Superman versus the Justice League. Don't make them all look like a bunch of pussies. Otherwise, what are they going to do when Darkseid comes? What are they going to do? Is it just going to be Superman?
But you see what you're saying here is that these are fundamental issues in this movie, and you're saying that this would be a $1 billion movie.
Well, to be honest, most people like that Superman scene. So
I got to be, no, it's a good scene. But look, here it is. DC fans, Snyder Cut people don't exist. It's just general DC fans. Watching a Justice League movie, they're seeing Flash on the screen for the first time. Flash is trash, right? His outfit's bad. He has blue lightning. He does a time travel thing at the end. They make him OP and hang on. They make him OP in certain things, and then they make him not OP in other things, right?
Yeah.
They power scale him for what the plot requires. Instantly terrible. Wonder Woman beats Ares. Like I've said earlier, she's nude in this movie. Batman gets tossed around like a thingo. He uses a parademon's gun most of the time instead of his gadgets or fighting hand to hand. Problem with Batman. Superman's not in 95% of this movie. This movie would not succeed at the cinema, even as a 3-hour cut. No normies are going to enjoy this because they're coming in thinking that Darkseid's going to be a big part of it. He isn't.
You're saying that, but normies did enjoy it because it's got good ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got good ratings on. It's got high.
But again, that goes back to my point I made earlier. That goes back to my point earlier. Is people are going, oh, this is better than that thing I saw in the cinema. That abomination I saw in the cinema. Like, this is way better than that. This is the truth. And also, given that HBO Max just released its numbers, and Mortal Kombat, Wonder Woman, and Godzilla vs. Kong are the top 3.
That's not a surprise.
It's not a surprise to me either, because normies again are going, I've seen this movie already.
The Snyder fans were hyping up way too much how it was going to do on HBO Max. But the cinema is a very different thing. The cinema is a very different thing. As if this was released as new in the cinema, then how would have people taken it? Because
do you think that it would tank in the second weekend?
Those films were brand new films, right? Like,
what kind of loss do you think would happen in the second weekend? Do you think this would get good word of mouth? It'd come out as a 3-hour cut. What would you cut out of this film, by the way, to make it 3 hours? You've got to cut an hour.
Being Aquaman, I would take a lot of that slow motion out. What else would I cut? I would cut the epilogue. Completely.
Yes. Facts. Yes.
I take the Martian Manhunt scene where he transforms out. That's quite a lot already. You take the slow motion out. I think they timed it. There was 20 minutes worth of slow motion in this movie. So that's already quite
so bad.
You take out all the slow motion that wasn't.
Oh no! Hang on, you got to keep that scene in it where we see the little seed fall from the bun inside the truck. Got to keep that scene, man. It's cool. It looks cool. Come on, and that's what Snyder's all about, looking cool. So I'm taking a bit of a hater.
Slow motion scene, the only slow motion scene I would have kept in the film was definitely the Flash saving Iris West. That's the only slow motion scene.
Oh man, that scene has so many issues though. It's like literally in the movie because it looks cool. Okay. Here's a scene break for you. This will break it for you. I'm sorry. So he captures her. He's sitting there staring at her for moments in the street, right? We see the glass fall to the ground that he smashes through, right? We see the store owner looking out the front of the store, who would have seen him in the street, and then suddenly he zips back inside with a hot dog feeding the dogs. It doesn't work.
I would have cut it there, by the way.
That is a failure of writing.
Wait, why is it a failure of writing?
Because the shop owner, the store owner would have seen him. The pet store owner would have seen him in the street. He was sitting there staring at her. Yeah, he was saying
speed. There's
no
way.
No. Hang on. Listen to what I said.
Okay.
He captures her, right? We see the time start back up and the car crash happens, right? It explodes. He's looking at her. She's looking at him. They're doing that for a few moments, right? It turns back. It shows the glass fall to the ground. So we're back in normal time. The shop owner is seen looking out the front door in the middle of the road where the Flash is sitting with Iris. Then suddenly he zips back inside and she looks across and he's sitting there feeding dogs.
Maybe she's not.
Dude, my point is, no. Stop making excuses. You know that I'm right. The problem is they made a big issue. There was a huge flaw in that scene, and I noticed it.
Come on, it's a nitpick.
The first time I saw it. Yeah, you can say comic book crap, but it's still the fact of it looking cool is why it made it into the movie. That's the only reason why. Right, the whole sesame seed falling from the bun, slow motion stuff.
I do like the when he's sitting with the dogs, but I could cut that scene off from when he's looking at her and speeds away, right? So we've cut that as well, so he doesn't go back into.
We're gonna fix the writing, but it's cutting that part out. Yeah.
The point is, I think we could get the movie down to at least 3 hours.
Okay, so we get it down to 3 hours, and then we release it, and we release the trailers the same way. We have Zack Snyder hype beasting it the same way with Euxes and Darkseid in this, etc., etc. I want to ask you, how do you think the second weekend would do for this movie? What kind of loss do you think it would get?
I think it would have made $1 billion. I think it would have made less than BVS in the first weekend. I think it would have made Aquaman money in the first weekend. And then I think it would have gone on to make $1 billion. So like the first weekend of Aquaman.
Man, you think it has the legs to do that? Repeat viewing, all four quadrants, repeat viewing?
Absolutely. I would have watched it like 4 times at least.
Really?
I've
seen it once. Once was enough for me. And I'm not a hater of the film. Like, I just said once was enough.
I would watch a
Kind
3 hour.
Sorry. Two times
so
was enough because essentially I've seen the same movie. It's just extra scenes in it.
I've only seen it 2 times, to be fair, but I would have watched it more because I would have it would have been a 3 hour cut, which would have been much better. I think a film altogether and a film experience. The epilogue is fucking preposterous. That can we like that epilogue is the big. And you're right.
You didn't like the reach around joke? Come on, man.
You remember when I said to you that sometimes I'm watching you debate and I'm like I'm waiting for the people to say the obvious thing and then you say it, and it was like you were the one who said it, and I feel the same. He is worse the Joker is worse in this movie than the Suicide Squad. He is worse. Was that you who said that? It was you, right?
Yes. Yeah, it was me. And I believe that completely. There were parts of the Suicide Squad that I actually liked the Joker scenes in. One of them was with the guard where he's just like puts his hands on his shoulders, are really sinister. I could see what David Ayer was going for in that movie. Like a lot of people, like no one's going to measure up to Heath Ledger. No one ever like could measure up to him following him, right?
Phoenix did a
no, hang on. The reason he succeeded is because we had the palate cleanser with Jared Leto in Suicide Squad. I'm serious. I'm serious because everyone would compare Phoenix to him instead if we hadn't had Jared Leto. This is the truth, right? And I can see what they were going for. They were going for more of a gangster sort of, I felt like it was more of I feel it was more of a like mobster sort of Joker. That's what the kind of I could see the direction they were trying for. Yeah, the damage tattoo stuff was stupid. Like the tattoo stuff was dumb. Like, but I could see they were kind of going for that gangster style Joker instead of the chaotic Joker from Dark Knight. And he
was like modern day. What do they call it? Hood.
He was like Cartel man. He reminded me of a Cartel member. Instead
of the Italian gangsters, he was going more for
Cartel,
or Hispanic kind of like modern day Hispanic black kind of hood gangs.
Exactly. I think that's what he was going for. I like that. Like there were parts of that worked for me. I didn't. His laugh was okay. Like there were parts of it that I didn't like. Like Joker was the worst part of that movie. The worst part was Enchantress by far. Right? The worst part of Suicide Squad was Enchantress.
Amanda Waller was good.
No. I'm saying the worst part of Suicide Squad was Enchantress. She was the worst part of that movie.
I thought
like Amanda Waller was like one of the best parts of the movie. Like I feel like Will Smith and Margot Robbie and the person who played Man of War, I forget her name. They were the top 3 actors in the movie. They did their roles well.
If anything I can say about Suicide Squad, I actually liked the Suicide Squad themselves. I even like the Australian guy, the Captain
Boomerang. That's why he's in the new one. Like they kept him around.
He's going to die though. I know he's dying in this fucking movie. I've got to do a stream before Suicide Squad comes out. I'm predicting the deaths. So if anything goes around, I want to do like a stream predicting the deaths before they, go. All right, let's move on to another thing. I like this. What do you make of this? Hamada is an idiot. Multiverse is a cop-out.
Hamada is a businessman and he needs to hire a creative director for Warner Brothers, especially for the DC properties. Someone that knows the comics, someone that can be like what Dave Filoni kind of should be for Star Wars. That's what they need to get for Disney properties. And then all the creative decisions or creative ideas go through him. They hire directors for certain movies that are good in those spheres that they're trying to do, the directions they're trying to take. James Wan was a perfect choice for Aquaman. He was perfect and clear. Clearly he was, because it made $1 billion. It hit the 4 quadrants. People love that film. Like people would do dogpiling that film. Like people like John Campea saying that wouldn't even make money. Like it was going to fail. And they blew people's expectations out of the water box office wise. And there was nothing like in hindering it at the time or like the reasons why. It was just people liked it. People just liked the film and they went to see it multiple times. It had great word of mouth. So like I feel like they need they need a creative director at the top that knows the comics, that isn't going to do Elseworlds crap. But yeah, I feel like the multiverse is a way for them to, like, just like Flashpoint is, it's a way for them to reset characters and sort of basically erase the Snyderverse. That's essentially what they're doing Flashpoint for. They're trying to erase the Snyderverse.
Mm-hmm. So there was one more thing I wanted to. I'm going to do two more. What's this say? Are you excited about Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead? I do like his remake of Dawn of the Dead and Living We. I don't know what that is. I also would like to see Snyder films on adaptations of the comic book movie. What do you say to that, JG?
I don't really care about the film to begin with. I'm happy that he's got an opportunity to do the film, but am I gung ho and just going head over heels about it? I can care less.
Okay,
that's all I can say about that.
I'm kind of with JG there. Like, zombie movies have been done to death. Like, people are like, oh, it's original. It's not. Zombies being intelligent, not original. We've seen that in what's it called? Whatever it is, the other zombie franchise. I'm forgetting it now. But like, there's also intelligent zombies in Walking Dead that's been introduced. Zombie tigers. It's like, okay, cool. That's like, this is the whole thing. It looks cool, right? And I'm like,
you're a bunch of owners, whiners. It's good.
Dude, zombie movies are like a dead. It's like being done to death. It's too much. Too many zombie movies. Too many zombie shows. They need to just take a rest for a bit. It's like back in the day, like it was the 70s or 60s. They just, like, everything that produced out of Hollywood was westerns. You know, like, there's a reason why, like, they just died because people were just like, I'm sick of westerns.
Everything before, you're like, The Sun, it's so old, man. I've seen it so many times before.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's no originality. I'm literally saying that there's no originality. Like, and I do like his remake of Dawn of the Dead. I think it's one of his best movies.
I'm messing around though, guys. I feel a little bit the same. I wasn't that impressed by the trailer even, and I thought, you know, what I like about Zack Snyder is the visuals, right? And I thought at least the visuals were going to be impressive. And then I looked at the trailer and I was like, maybe he only can do these visuals when Warner Brothers gives him like 300 million to make
them. It looks like World War Z.
Basically, yeah.
I think I'll tell you what.
I just don't care. Look, I'm more power to people that are excited about it. That's fine. I am not excited. I'm not waiting day one when this comes out. I'll watch it if I'm bored. Like that's literally how I feel about it.
It's going to be fun, but I just don't think it looks amazing. But I think it's going to be fun. I really do.
I don't know, man. Dave Bautista's headlining. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
All right. So what else have we got? World War Z, Nerd Man. Do you like me? He says. You're fine, man. You're cool. Let me see. This is somebody who hasn't spoken. I think Snyder is the only director to make a good live action anime movie visually. Well, there you go. That's you, Paul. He's agreeing with you there.
Yeah, I would hazard to guess that's true. Like, again, he's great at visuals. He's not good at storytelling. That's his big failing. And I think to be honest, I think he tries too hard to be Nolan.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think that was hey Jess. I think that was Jess replying to Bruce trying to tell you like you're ignoring me or something. So she was just saying he's in a conversation.
I'm not ignoring anybody. Yeah, I've been looking at this Bruce stuff. I don't know if he's joking or not, but yeah. Anyway,
we're talking. So yeah, the comments get after we finish our discussion, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. There's not I'm just trying to look if there was any other thing. All right, let's do Bruce here. So Hamada is getting help from Greg Berlanti on the CDW. He's absolutely insane. What do you reckon?
Except that
the Green Lantern.
Greg Berlanti has been very successful with his franchises. No matter what you think of them, they're still running. They still run. Like Arrow got 7 seasons or whatever. What?
Was he on Watchmen as well? Because I know he's done all the CW stuff, but was he on Watchmen?
I don't know, but man, he's like responsible for like all their he's like across all the crossover events. Like this is the thing. Like no matter what you think of the CW, and I think that it's a dumpster fire, particularly when they like greenlight Batwoman season 3 after the dismal ratings of season 2 episode 1. The terribleness. I've only watched one episode of that, and it was Batwoman. It was season 2 episode 1, and it's one of the worst like TV shows I've ever watched in all of my life. Like probably the worst episode of a television show.
That fucking.
But you got like successful. The trailer
you know, the trailer for Batwoman was like the anti-Man of Steel trailer, right? It's like,
yeah.
You were just like, what the fuck? You couldn't keep your eyes off it because of how bad it was. It was just like
the problem with the CW is
a little bit more like things with the feminist messages and things. I don't even mind that stuff like so much, but that was just over the. I'm a woman. I was just like, what is going?
Yeah. Well, that's what I was about to say. The problem with CW is they write their shows. They sacrifice good writing in their shows for work points. That's what they do. That's essentially what they do. And then it becomes characters talking about their feelings in hallways, characters talking about their feelings in a ship, characters talking about their feelings on the seaside. And that's all it becomes. Like it no longer becomes a superhero story. So that's why Flash season 1 and 2 is good. The rest of them are bad. Same with Arrow. It really doesn't it has some highlights in the later seasons, but that's its longest running besides Smallville. It's its longest running superhero show. They cancelled Supergirl. Flash I think is done after this season. Arrow's gone. They were going to do that new Arrow show with women instead, and they cancelled that idea because people were just like, nope, don't want that. I mean, he's good at the start. I feel like he's good as a creative director. The problem is that he doesn't he lets individual story writers write for work credits instead of actually writing the characters as they are in the comics.
And this is where I disagree with a lot of people or commentators on the internet. I want to make this kind of a caveat on this. Woke stuff can actually be good. It can actually be good if you can have a creator who is woke, right? But at the same time, they write the story is the first thing. They write for the story is the most important thing. The woke messaging is incidental. It's woven in. So for instance, if you look at a film like Booksmart, right? That's actually a pretty woke movie, but it's a funny comedy at the same time. I don't agree with all of the messages and the kind of things that they're talking about in it, but it's a funny, entertaining movie. And it's because the story came first, and then incidentally, whatever the creators' views were came out of that. The problem with the CW and with a lot of woke stuff these days is that the wokeness is the message is more important than the story. They go in say want to push the agenda of gay people or something like that, or LGBTQ. So we want to push that agenda, and that is what it doesn't matter about the character, who it is, or the legacy of Batman or whatever. We're gonna make sure that is on the forefront. That's what's most important. So I think that's the problem with those stories, and it's a kind of way of writing that's becoming very, very common at the moment, and it's problematic. They need to stop that across the board, whether it's with something that is right wing, left wing, or anything in between.
Well, that's a problem too, man. That's a serious issue that's a serious issue as it on its own. It's like, can we not just write stories without making them political? Like that's a this is the problem. Is like there's like back in the day
video. But
well, back in the day, but these people are too politically charged. That's the problem. They write that into their stories instead of just writing characters and then naturally progressing stuff. Now, I'll give you 2 examples. A good example of what you're talking about there, where you have like, you know, I don't want to call it woke, but I want to call it like messaging within the story, is I don't know if you've watched the full thing yet, but Falcon and Winter Soldier had a lot of subtle messaging in it. And it wasn't just about race. There was commentary on military life in that. There was commentary on like what it is for a military person to come back from a war and not have their mental health taken care of. Like when he's in the courtroom and like he says, "You made me. Now you want to discard me." Right? This is a common thing for military people, and I know this because I have a lot of military friends. My family's heavily military, right? So like this is something that was woven into that. There was also the racial thing that was woven into it. Now, there was good and bad in that. Like the walking while black thing that happened to Sam and in the start of the story, I felt was very jarring and didn't really flow. But the thing that really flowed for me is when he comes back to Isaac's house, and Isaac's basically like jaded. He's jaded from a time period where racism was rampant, and he's saying they're never going to let a black man hold that shield. And Sam walks out of that house completely crushed, right? Because he's like, oh, how do I hold up the shield and still like get to be respected, right? He has this conscious. So he goes back to his family roots, and Bucky actually helps him in that, which I thought was a really cool thing with their friendship. And eventually he does carry the shield, and he is Captain America. It's a black man holding the Captain America shield. So like there is subtlety in these shows, right? But then they're like sometimes they can go too far some places. But I feel overall that show wasn't woke. It was just subtly writing in interesting things in that show. Now, a bad example of this is, I don't know if you saw this, but in one of the BBC creative directors came out and said that Idris Elba and Luther wasn't black enough because he didn't eat Caribbean food on the show and he didn't have enough black friends, the character, right? So this is where woke points goes over the top, and these people are super woke, and they're like, oh, this person wasn't black and like believable as a black character because didn't eat Caribbean food and didn't have enough black friends. You see,
defined. I think that's a double-edged sword because you're making him be defined by being black. And I don't know about you. I don't know about like anybody else, but I don't wake up. And this is like I'm definitely proud of being black. I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud of being, like coming from Africa and all of that kind of stuff. Love African food, but I don't wake up thinking, oh, I'm black and I have to, do you know what I mean? It's like that's almost forced upon me by the outside
but you
world.
See, it's literally that's what it is. But it is racism to say that because you're saying that black people can only be black if black enough as a character if they have many black friends and they eat Caribbean food. So for like the woke scale actually reverses on itself and it becomes racism because you're doing a racial stereotype. Imagine if an African American came out and said this character isn't black enough because they don't eat enough Kentucky Fried Chicken and have enough watermelon. Do you see how that would be racist? Because it's a racial stereotype that they're saying is only for that race. And so this is where, I don't want to get too far down because it is a wave of stuff, right? But what I'm saying is that this is the example of where you go to work and it reverses on itself and it actually becomes what they're trying to fight, which is racial stereotypes about people, which is what you just said. People don't wake up and go, I don't wake up in the morning and go, I'm white, therefore I need to do these things to be white. Like no one thinks this way except for these writers who have gone full Simple Jack and like, oh, I need to write my characters to be these stereotypes, right? I need to make them these racial stereotypes. And it's like, why not just write the character? They happen to be black and they can be whoever they want because it's a free world and you can just go and do what you need to do. You don't have to be sizing up to these certain racial stereotypes. Like, why can't a black man go down the street and get some Japanese food? Does that make them less black? Because that's essentially what this person, the BBC person's saying. He's saying she was saying Luther isn't black enough as believable as a black character because he didn't eat enough Caribbean food. It's like, how about he can just be black enough because he's black? Like, why does he have to do these racial stereotypes in her mind to make him black?
Actually, this is what Michael B. Jordan was saying, which I think he has the right kind of attitude towards, is that he said, you know, like when he was talking to his agent, he said, I don't want you sending me out for black roles. I want you to send me out for whatever role is there. Just to, you know, just let me read it and do it, even if it was written for a white person, possibly. And I'm not talking about like super iconic superheroes. He's just talking about, you know, the random characters, right? Like in a romantic comedy or in an action movie. And he was like, let me go out and read it, and I'll make it black because I am black. I don't need to, it doesn't need to be specifically written for a black person. I'll make it black because I am black. And there is no homogenous blackness. There's a bunch of different people who have, you know, and it is true that there is an experience of being black. And I think that should not be ignored, right? In a film, like the experience of being black is something that's very real. It's something that's imposed on us from the outside. But what we internally, obviously, like all human beings, what we internally like, dislike, you know, what political views we have, what, you know, how educated we are, how, you know, whatever, all of that is different, obviously, depending on the person. So there is no one thing. But do we have experiences in common because we are black? Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the important thing that needs to be represented in media. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes to make it.
I agree with you, man. And there's stories to be told within that. Completely agree with you. Like there's lots of stories to be told within those spheres. It's like, I just think that this is a becoming an increasingly big issue within like writers within Hollywood and other media outlets, right? Where they are trying to score like virtue signal points by saying these statements, and they don't realize they're actually being racist by saying these statements, because they're literally saying that you can't be a black character or black enough to an audience if you don't eat Caribbean food. It's like, that's ridiculous. That's terrible. It's like saying I can't be white without being trailer trash. It's the same deal. Like, you see what I'm saying?
That is true though, isn't it? I heard that before. I read that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the trailer trash doesn't exist in Australia. We don't have like trailer trash in Australia. We have like bogans.
I'm messing around.
So but anyway, like that's what I'm saying. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't fit the rest of the world narrative. And like, we have Nigerians that live in Australia that come and live here, right? And then second generation, like they're fully integrated Nigerian Australians, right? They don't forget their heritage. They have their heritage, but they're Australians. They speak just like me almost, right? So it's like, but then you're saying that they need to be like, they have to eat Nigerian food in order to be Nigerian enough. Like, you see what I'm saying? It's really this slippery slope of profiling. Like,
if you've got Nigerian foods, Nigerian friends, make sure they give you Nigerian food. It's fucking good if you haven't had it already.
Oh no, I'm telling you, man. Like, there's all food I will always try out, like more than once. Like, I lived in Malaysia for like 2.5 years, and it was an amazing experience for food.
You've tried Nigerian food. You've tried.
No, see, I haven't tried Nigerian food. No, I haven't.
Oh, dude, it is delicious.
Man, it's delicious.
I got no doubt. Like, most countries have like better food than, I mean, we're descended from the English, and they have the most blandest food in the world. So like anything's like pretty much better like than English food. But it's like, but you see what I'm saying? Like, there's that slippery slope that does exist, where now people are like turning in on itself. And there was like something here, like he said Black Panther was good and it embraced the blackness. That's what Bruce Wayne has said here. But the issue with that is that, okay, that happened and that was great. It was great for people. People were saying it was the first black superhero movie, but it wasn't. There was Steel. There was Blade.
Well, Steel doesn't count. Blade counts.
Yeah, well, Steel doesn't count because it was terrible. But Blade and Blade 2 are pretty good movies. Blade 2 specifically, that's the first black superhero movie. People don't put like credit on Wesley Snipes for that.
But wait a second, what's the issue here? I mean, I think they meant like
like people like hype beast it. My issue is this, right?
By a black guy, I think it was even written by. Well, it was like
So there was all this stuff that happened, right? Yes. Yeah, that's correct. But then criticism of the film was met with you're a racist if you
I
criticize the
don't like
film.
that movie. I don't like it as much as everyone. I think I don't even know. I think it's one
But
of
you
my.
see, what my point is that
But
when you have that as a response, right? It's like 2016 Ghostbusters, right? People were criticized that movie because it's not funny. It's a terrible movie and it doesn't follow on from what it was. That's true. Or kale and mayonnaise. They're
do you
true
eat
as well.
potato salad?
Um,
Do you eat potato
I
salad?
love potato salad, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm
me
white
too.
enough.
Guess I'm not
I
black
love
enough.
the potato salad.
But
It's great.
I like potato salad as well, so I don't.
Yeah, I'm not black enough. I like
Um,
potato salad.
see what I'm saying? This whole thing. It's like, hey, enough said. Thanks for coming by, man. That's another guy that I know, so that's cool. But like this that whole thing. Like, so I agree with
Please,
you.
guys, give me a thumbs up.
I think Black Panther is overrated, particularly the end. The CGI is terrible. It looks like PS2 graphics at the end of that movie, and the story isn't about like. I'm going to tell you something like truth, and I've said this many times. Civil War
or Black Panther?
What was it?
Wonder Woman or Black Panther? Wonder Woman 1 or Black Panther? Better film.
For me, Wonder Woman.
Thank you. High five. Give me a high five to the screen.
And I'll explain. High five. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why now. Black Panther. I'll tell you something. When I saw the Civil War trailer and I saw Black Panther in that, I was so hyped. I was like hype beast. And I'm not saying this for virtue signal points. I'm saying because it was real. And he was better in Civil War, just like Spider-Man was better in Civil War than their own movies. Black Panther's movie was Killmonger's movie. It was about Killmonger. Like it was like Dark Knight. That's Joker's movie, not Batman's movie. That's a Joker movie, right? And Killmonger just outshined as a character Black Panther in every way. And he had more screen time. His motivations, you understood them. You understood why. Whereas Black Panther was like on this, like he was on this journey of like, why are we xenophobic? All these things. Like this society can't be criticized. But I'm like, it's literally trial by combat to become a king, and you can't become a queen. Like you think Shuri's going to get in there and take Umambo? Is it Imambo?
That was the thing. Okay, let me tell you one main.
Imagine that in Black Panther. She'd get wrecked. He'd snap her in half and throw her off the thing.
Before I forget this, because this is a main. Oh shit, he's gone. This is a main criticism I have of the film. Right, is like one. I do think Chadwick Boseman, God rest his soul, is actually miscast. I think his African accent is great, but I will say this about right, like you brought up something that's really, really important, why it's bad. He loses to the guy in a straight up combat without his powers, right? The only way for him, in my mind, to get the respect back is for him to win a fight in the exact same way as he lost the fight.
Yeah.
Right at the end, he has all the superpowers. He has the Black Panther suit. Sorry, doesn't count. He's still the fucking king. He was the one who beat you in one-on-one combat. He beat you
according to their rules. Yeah, according to their rules. Yeah, and it's like they're, this is a thing too. Like a lot of stuff was like, I know, sort of pumped about that, and like they live in a xenophobic society. This is like Killmonger's problem with them in the first place is that they didn't help any of the other nations around them while they were being like sold into slavery. Like this is like a fundamental issue with Wakanda. It's not like a utopian society where everyone's equal. They still have a monarchy. Like all these, like that's a trial by combat monarchy as well, like where anybody can become ruler just by killing the king, like, and become the Black Panther. Like, so like there's all these things, right? And that's just like getting down to nitty gritty of like being able to criticize this. But I'll tell you why Wonder Woman is better than for me, right? Because Wonder Woman is like the first movie ever to make me cry in the cinema. And it was the scene where she goes over the into no man's land. And there's that scene where everyone's just looking at her like, that's impossible. Like there's no hope. And she takes all the bullets so they can move across. And it was like this, the music plus what was happening, plus her determination at that point where she was like, all of that stuff played into it, and I cried. I cried in the cinema.
Argue with me against philosophical pickle because he says that she is bad. Gal Gadot is bad in that movie, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. She in that movie.
The only casting choice that was bad was Ares. He's the only bad casting choice in that movie. They picked this Weasley old Englishman to play the god of war. Not a good choice. Not a good choice.
We're going into a really, really interesting topic, which I want as a separate topic one day. Hopefully, you'll come back one day. But I don't, like obviously because of the length and stuff. But man, do we want to say our last words on Zack Snyder before we kind of go? It was an epic discussion, man. Everything I thought it might be. Paul, you were like great, but like, what? Anything last things to say on Zack Snyder?
Wish him the best. I don't think he's coming back to Warner Brothers. I think the Snyderverse is done, and they're moving on. And I think it's good for both of them to move on. Warner Brothers needs to move on, and Zack Snyder needs to move on, because this is, as much as he got his vision, and I'm glad he got his vision because of what they did to him. What they did to him is a lasting memory for him, and I think it's best that they both just part their ways now. And the Snyder people, the toxic ones, just need to go away as well. Like, they need to just resort their life out, because being toxic online, just stop doing it. Stop posting restore the Snyderverse under people's death announcements, which I've seen. Like, just stop doing, just stop doing this stuff. Like, yeah, it's like, you're not going to get your movie. Everyone sees it and they see you, and then they think everyone who loves Zack Snyder is like you. You're doing Zack Snyder, you're doing the Justice League, his Justice League, a disservice when you do.
Do you know
stuff.
why I really think we're not getting a Zack Snyder thing? Is actually because of Ray Fisher and their toxicity.
Yep.
I really think
you are right.
I think they would have considered it had it not been for that. Because you remember when they dropped the the announcement for Zack Snyder, like 2 days after Zack Snyder's Justice League. 2 days after somebody was asking, "Can we get the Ayer cut?" And they were like, "Yeah, maybe." They were like, they wanted to see this goes. And then
they were trying to hype beast it.
Kept telling them, "Settle down, guys. Settle fucking down." And by the way, Bruce Wayne said one thing he said that I wanted to answer to, that Jeff Johns should be in prison. Why? What is he talking about? Jeff Johns should be in jail. I don't know what you mean by that. It was up there somewhere. I'm not going to go find it. But yeah, you're right. I think that toxicity is the big problem that the Snyder fans have. And for me, who's a Snyder fan, and I'm not toxic, I can criticize his movies, but and I'd like to see him continue, but I'd also like to see some other really good directors get involved who have good visual flair and good, storytelling, much like the guy who did the Joker. I think Matt Reeves' Batman is looking pretty sick. I want more voices like that, but to deal with other characters like Superman or Green Lantern. And I think that would be a successful model for them. And I don't mind Zack Snyder doing another Justice League as long as they've set up other people who can, add to the mix as well. It doesn't have to be a Snyderverse. It could just be Snyder directing this specific movie while other people direct others. That would be my option if I could. JG, I know you didn't get to come in the call. I sent you the link quite early, but I know.
Yeah, like that, I was bouncing from stream to stream, Ashley stream, everybody stream. So I'm like, okay, I'm trying to catch everybody I can. Zack Snyder, man. Like I said, great visual director. He has a lot of ideas, which is great, but somebody needs to hold him back. No, like you're writing an essay, right? And the essay is so good. It has a lot of substance to it, but you got these punctuation marks you're missing. You're misquoting this. And that's what Zack Snyder is to me. He's that guy that's writing an essay that's great, but man, not necessarily like the critiques of putting those quotations in there. Right?
Grammar's all wrong. There's no mistakes, and
Zack Snyder. I mean, if I was Zack Snyder, and I agree, burn my bridges. I want no more part of it. I did my thing, which was really what it was intended for, which was because of what happened to me and to raise awareness for suicide prevention, stuff like that. It was done. Let's move on, right? Do your thing, Netflix or whatever you're going to do. We're going to do our things over here. And let's really get back to what it's all about, which is geek culture coming together, seeing these characters that we've grown up loving, reading about, putting them on screen, and let's do it right.
Yeah. Good way to end it. Good, I think. So yeah, man, again, this was epic. Thanks so much, Paul, for coming on today. It was really fun talking to you. As I said, I've watched you for a while, so I've always wanted a conversation about this stuff. Great stuff. JG, my man, brother from another mother. Thanks for coming on as well. And guys, thanks for all the comments. Sorry I couldn't get around to all of them. But yeah, we can continue this conversation in the comment section. Subscribe for more content, and yeah, what's the other thing you usually subscribe, comment? Oh, give me a like, please. Give me a high five.
Yeah. Smash that like button.
Yeah, both of these guys are real good at what they do. Please like, subscribe, and share. Catch them. They're really good.
Entertainment, man. You're a bit late, but thanks for the comment. See you on the flip side, guys. Love you 3000. Peace.
I'm with PKL.